an airplane that's been hijacked, and things will go well, and it's not working well. I just want you to know it's absolutely love you. I want you to do good. We'll have a good time. Same to my parents and everybody. And I just totally love you, and I'll really be upset. Good day.
Have to listen to me carefully. I'm on a plane that's been hijacked. I'm on the plane. I'm calling from the plane. I want to tell you I love you. Please tell my children that I love them very much. And I'm so sorry, babe. I hope to be able to see your face again, baby. I love you. Bye.
What's up, broski?
Yo, are we here finally?
I don't know what's happening to everyone. We just tried to do this a few times. Crazy tech issues.
Yeah, I think we're finally here. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I had no idea what the fuck was going on there.
It's the lodge, bro. The lodge don't want us.
We thought we had it figured out. We started, and then it just dipped the stream out, like for no reason. Fucking deleted it. So we don't know what's going on, but we'll see what kind of sorcery we can get involved with tonight.
Something going on.
What's good, Machine Lives? What you eating on? Some honey buns?
It's a piece of bread with some.
Oh, you're mad quiet, bro.
Oh shit.
Mad quiet.
Oh shit. Okay, I get it.
Oh, it's one of them nights, man.
Yeah. I don't know how well this will go.
It's rough.
Hello?
Barely hear you, bro.
Fuck.
Let me see if I can. Now you're turned all the way up in the StreamYard.
So Drake, can we hear you?
Y'all are a bunch of freaking Uyghurs and shit.
Why,
You're a freaking TML knows what's up. You're a bunch of freaking Uyghurs. Get off that Uyghur shit.
bro? What's with these allegations against you, bro? We gotta go there.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
for real.
whatever. I don't care. I don't care.
I'm gonna come back in.
Well, you don't even say it's bullshit. That's the thing.
Oh,
it
bro.
bullshit?
So no, I just don't want to like even like engage because it's just stupid. Okay, like, oh, if you don't
Okay, but
defend
I would at
yourself,
least
then
say like
hold
bullshit.
on. If I don't defend myself, then it's real. Like, I don't like want to exist on that level of stupidity. Like, all that dude has ever fucking done is try to pick a fight with me, and I just don't care.
What dude?
He's just like Tommy. I don't care, bro. I don't care. I don't care what people say.
Okay,
Okay,
bro.
period. Quit being a
Okay,
Uyghur. You
Yeah,
know,
we're here. Thanks to everyone that's here. I'm not trying to do a panel tonight, but right now we're having major like resistance from the interwebs is giving us major resistance right now. That means it's gonna be a banger. Happy 9/11, everyone. Rest in peace, Davy Crocco. It's not the same 9/11 without you, brother. This is the conspiracy holiday that we've all been waiting for. So we wanted to do like a special stream, but not about 9/11 because I think we're all kind of sick of talking about. I mean, how much more is there to say really about 9/11? Let's try this again with our boy, the Machine Lies.
Uyghurs did 9/11. Uyghurs did 9/11, bro. Shit.
Yeah, can y'all hear me now?
Way better.
Loud and clear. Yeah, wall to wall.
Okay, for sure. Yeah, I actually changed nothing in the settings.
StreamYard's tripping tonight. StreamYard is on.
I just went out and went back in and shit. That's all the fuck I did. So
sorry for the slow start. We wanted to hit the ground running tonight.
Yeah, now we're totally off. Off.
Can you, EBT? I can't do it. Can you delete the link from the chat?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So tonight we wanted to follow up on the HEXEN 2.0 tarot deck. We did a stream. What was it now? About a year ago?
Yeah, it was. I believe it was the last 420. I believe it was the last 420 stream that we did, which we done several. We did the Illuminati card game the year before. We did the major arcana 2 years ago, I guess. Yeah, we did the major arcana. Yeah. So last time we did the major arcana out of this deck. In case you guys have never heard of this deck is made by this artist known as Suzanne Trister. She's a artist for CERN, and this is a pretty interesting deck. And we were going to go over the minor arcana cards in this deck tonight is the plan, and we'll discuss all the stuff that is in these cards. I'm trying to find this thing and talk at the same time. How the fuck do I delete the comment?
It's all good, bro.
Why is it called the Hexen deck?
That I actually don't even know. I don't even know why it's called 2.0 because there is no.
Yeah, there's no one.
There's no one. So.
Well, I guess just let the comment run, dude. Fuck it. We'll just no one else come click the link. You're not going to come up.
Yeah, it only gives me an option to ban you.
Yeah, me too.
what the fuck?
Me too. What shit is tripping, bro? Can you pull up some of the major arcana? Just so get some visual imagery real quick or something, or however you want to do it, bro.
Yeah, well, I'm totally off now since we had so many issues going on. But let me just pull up the last stream just in case people didn't get to check that out. And then we'll just give you a taste of that real quick while we get in the groove here and get going.
Rough start, man. Where were you? Machine Lies. We've told our story many times where we were on 9/11. Which plane were you on?
It feels like a Jim Bob stream here. I mean, just tech issues.
Yeah, just boomer
hour.
Shit. It's really not us though. It's like StreamYard is fucking tripping.
Shit. Was that on Chalk Body Outline? Was that
What?
that last time we did the major arcana?
It's on your channel, dude.
It's on my channel. Jesus Christ,
Dude,
dude.
don't even know where the shit is, man. Just type "enslaved by truth hexen."
All right, talks amongst yourselves for a minute. I'll find.
Machine Lies. Well, you got a 9/11 story because we've shared ours many times.
Oh yeah, well I was going to a Muslim school,
And
I
they
guess
were
it was
like, "Fuck yeah!"
some people were like that, but other people were like sad and shit. And then they got a bomb threat on the mosque. So we all had to
Oh,
like leave
shit.
school and shit because they were like, "Yeah, motherfuckers, you're gonna blow up our country. We're gonna blow up your motherfucking mosque and shit." So like, so yeah, it was.
Were you guys hip to Osama bin Laden already and all that?
I had no idea about it, but the more I found out about it, I was like, "Shit, this motherfucker actually worked for the U.S. and shit." I was like,
Right.
this is crazy. I was like, "Wow, I couldn't believe it." All right. Yeah, I couldn't believe that shit.
So this is the deck, yeah. So it's a lot of it's based around that Macy conference, right? When was that in like the 50s or something?
Yeah, that's one of the main themes of the deck, and the Macy conference is kind of where all these ideas of transhumanism, cybernetics, all this kind of stuff starts getting discussed. All the major players are involved with it: Tavistock, Club of Rome, all this kind of stuff. Here's the artist. This is the artist that made the deck, Susan Trister. I was actually just looking at her Wikipedia page. There's actually a couple things that I didn't see before that are pretty interesting. She's involved in a art movement that's known as post-surveillance art. That's something that I've not heard of before. I'm not even sure what that is. But yeah, she was working for CERN. She was did a bunch of weird art projects. She does a bunch of like strange like stuff for NATO too, which is pretty odd. She has this huge book that's like all the classifications of NATO, like literally every single thing you could imagine is classified in through NATO, like toilet seats and like all kinds of weird shit. Like, but yeah, so she's the one that came up with this deck here. So this is the first stream that we did on this.
Then you said she does the art for CERN. Now I know you and I go way back, and I know you used to go ham on CERN back in the day, but I think it's been a really long time since you've actually talked about CERN on YouTube.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like I focused on Fermi Lab a lot since it was, it's in my right up the street for me. So yeah, that was something I was always interested in, especially the art from these institutes. Not so much CERN. Like Fermi Lab has some of the craziest, strangest art, like MC Etcher kind of weird stuff. There was this one artist, Angela Gonzalez, I believe her name was, that made a bunch of weird art through Fermi Lab. I used to always post all that stuff. So yeah, we'll probably get into that later on, but we'll just lay the backstory so people know what we're talking about. So CERN gave her, they gave her the Collide Award for creating some kind of weird fucking art projects there and shit at CERN or whatever. So
they're like, "Bitch, you weird. Take this award. You weird."
Right. So, and then we covered the major arcana last time. So we went through all the major cards. Most of the ones involved in that had to do with the Macy's conference. And we even had, I had PowerPoint on this. I forgot about this. We did all the Cybernetic Council conferences that went on. So I mean, this was a 4-hour and 20-minute stream. Here's the artist from Fermi Lab that I was talking about, Angela Gonzalez. This is some of the strange art from Fermi Lab, which is the second largest particle accelerator lab in the world here in Chicago. In the suburbs. This is one of my favorite images here. Is it's all the demons around this witch's kettle, and the inside inside the actual kettle is the actual Trevitron, which is the accelerator at Fermilab. And you can see here's the Fermilab sigil. Really crazy artwork put up by this woman. It's got that real weird MC Etcher kind of vibe to it and everything. You can spend days and days looking at all this stuff, and it's so intricate, and like you have to know so much to understand some of these images. But you can even see you have the cathedral glass window, which is actually it's still the Fermilab sigil. And then you can even see in the background, I've talked about this before, in the background you can see how there's kind of like a twin tower kind of looking vibe behind there. What that actually is, like the first like nuclear pile reactor, but it looked very similar to the outside facade of the World Trade Centers. So I've always postulated that perhaps, the buildings were built to be destroyed in that event, and it was some kind of chain reaction event that was pre-planned on that building to happen. It wasn't necessarily
from the construction, right?
Yeah. So it was essentially the two buildings were like nuclear piles, and they just self-destructed themselves. So that's part of the reason why I think about what happened there. But who knows? Who knows? But a self-sustaining reaction that was triggered, but possibly by a directed energy weapon, possibly could have triggered it. Who knows? But anyway, so that's some of the weird Fermilab art that we went into. What else did we do?
The problem with these streams is the people never go back and watch the previous streams.
Yeah. Okay, so
lore here, folks. There's lore.
I guess I did go into that whole thing when I explained it. Yeah, I went into talking about the nuclear piles. We went more into different cards, all the major cards, yada yada yada. Some of these major arcana cards are super interesting. So I highly recommend anybody go back and watch this stream if this one sucks, because this one was pretty good. This one was pretty good. But I guess we covered some of our older stuff there for a bit. We go into a lot of this stuff we'll touch on. So I guess we did some of the minor arcanas in this, but we'll touch again on a lot of this tonight. The Unabomber Manifesto.
The Unabomber Manifesto.
Yep.
Well, yeah, it gets into a lot of these real people, and then I guess do you have like another PowerPoint? Are you like that prepared tonight?
I do not have a PowerPoint ready, but I do have all the cards pulled up here on the side here. And then we'll just go ahead and start. I think what I wanted to start with was the Four of Chalices. So I think that was a good one just to start because it's kind of basic and interesting. And I got a short video we can play on that one. Let me get this layout figured out, though. That's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. I'm sorry, guys. This is a shit stream.
No, bro. It's the they to us.
It totally threw us off our game here.
They are running.
I don't even know how to do this on the StreamYard out here. So this is advanced for me. Y'all got the picture.
No, I need to stack. God damn it.
Yeah, like how do you put an overlay up on StreamYards?
You go in the brand and then you can add them, but like it's not doing. I need to stack. I need us to stack on the side.
Well, you need to share your screen then.
Can you not see what I'm seeing?
I see that Four of Chalices card.
Yeah, I need to move it. Is the thing.
Damn, somebody said I look like the son of Brian Stavely. Ban that motherfucker right now. You're done, bro. You are fucking done. Get the fuck out, bro.
Okay,
that's too far, bro.
I'm just gonna pull this up. I'm gonna pull a card up, and then because I'm not trying to figure out this layout right now. So the Four Chalices, which is the castle clock. So the castle clock's pretty interesting. This is an early like automaton, like robotic thing that was built by this Arabic guy with this crazy long name. Instead of trying to explain it, I think it's best if probably we just play this little video here on it. I think it's be an interesting way to get into it. If anybody has anything to say about it, we'll say something about it. If not, we'll move on. And that's how we'll play this for now. So sorry guys, we're getting in the groove here. This is early on in the stream.
We're not doing tarot, truth or cop. We're just talking about a certain deck. There we go. Now we're stacked up. But now you got to hide that. There we go.
Do we have sound?
No.
No. Shit. God damn it, dude. Okay,
Wait.
there we go.
The Islamic Golden Age shone with the brilliance of many men and women. One in particular was
This is what I dance to.
Abu Ez ibn Ishmael ibn al-Razaz al-Jazari.
Did you guys catch that name?
No, do it again.
Ishmael ibn al-Razaz. One in particular was Badi al-Zaman Abu Ez ibn Ishmael ibn al-Razaz al-Jazari. Born in the 12th century in Al-Jazari, Mesopotamia, now southeast Turkey. An extraordinary engineer of his time, Al-Jazari served as chief engineer to rulers in early 13th century Anatolia and pioneered the development of automata, automatic control, robotics, and automated musical theatres. From an early age, he worked with his father and uncles who were craftsmen, learning the practical skills of working with wood and metal to create tools and solutions. He was a practical engineer and technologist. Unlike the Greeks he studied, he assembled mechanical devices by trial and error rather than by theoretical calculations, and was more interested in creating machines that were useful to society than machines that purely existed for dramatic effect and illusion. In this pursuit, he realized that machines could be made to operate independently and developed the first real programmable robots. In taking this approach, Al-Jazari created the first water supply system driven by gears and hydropower. He revolutionized the way in which engineers used the principles of levers, cams, weights, and pulleys in machinery. And he was the first person to use crankshafts, cogwheels, pistons, suction, delivery pipes, and one-way clack valves in pumps.
It's like some real tweaker shit.
Al-Jazari described and illustrated his inventions in his Book of Knowledge of Ingenious Mechanical Devices. It is considered a seminal work, and many of the ideas employed in the construction of these ingenious devices were useful in the later development of mechanical technology, the progress of a crescent moon across the clock's frieze. At its top, a large dial mimicked the movement of the moon and stars across the sky as the sun rose and set. Within the clock, movements were regulated by a most ingenious system of reservoirs, troughs, and pulleys. Yet it was the smallest device, a cart that ran on a wooden track, that set off a dramatic chain of events leading to the telling of the time. The clock's central mechanism was a reservoir from which an accurately calibrated flow of water was allowed to seep into a float chamber and into a plate and spout. As a weighted float descended within the reservoir, it tugged at two pulleys, one that set the cart on its motion and another that slowly pulled a sphere, which in turn rotated a cut-out crescent disk to shine light from candles onto the roundels and shift the sun and moon dial on top of the clock.
Like, who's thinking of this shit? How to make this
Right.
shit? He's chewing that cot. He's on that cot
He
shit.
got that cot, yeah. Yeah. Badi al-Zamari Abu is Ibn Isma el bin al-Azhar al-Zahari was that guy. And he made this badass clock thing. So that's the four chalices, the four cups, also known as the Lord of Blended Pleasure. There's really not a whole lot to say about it. It's kind of interesting that it's an early work of. Some people say this was one of the earliest examples of a mechanical computer. I guess essentially is the purpose of it being in the deck.
Like
I
that
got this
mechanism.
motherfucker. Yeah, yeah. I was about to say it kind of sounded like the Antikythera mechanism. It sounded like maybe that was first, you know,
Yeah.
because that was exactly a zodiac clock too. But I got here a book by National Geographic where it says 1,001 inventions from the Muslim world or whatever that my little brother bought. And yeah, it just so happens that because of the view that Muslims had of early science and philosophy, they were able to invent a lot of shit because of a dude named Avicenna, Ibn Sina. And actually, in Copleston's History of Philosophy, where he talks about medieval philosophy, he talks about Ibn Sina and how he like reinvented science and shit like that. But one of his theories was like about how everything was like automata, because it's like everything's basically based on cause and effect. So every action goes back to if you follow the chain of causality, there has to be a necessary act that started the whole thing. So he literally said like all of creation is like fucking dominoes. So it like set the stage for like people to think of creation as like mechanism and shit. And I know like Newton and all these guys, they took a lot of those ideas and applied it to like the way the mechanical universe works, because Newton made a model of the universe being like mechanical like that. So a lot of them got it from these Islamic thinkers, because in the Islamic theory or whatever, basically like nature's like everything in nature's like essentially automated, because in one sense it's like more it's like more extreme than deism, but it's not as complex as like Christianity, the Christian Trinity, which is like takes into account a lot more dimensions of the world and stuff like that, because God interacts both in the world and outside of the world in the Trinity. Whereas in the Islamic shit, there's less of a difference between nature and and God's creation and all of that stuff. It's more just very simple.
Mm-hmm.
So they would look at, so it's almost like atheism, because God isn't in anything except for like he's exalted, but he's like in everything. So it's like you just kind of observe God in nature.
Sound like simulation theory or something.
Oh yeah, they had some shit like that. They had some shit like that early on.
Yeah, and part of what you're saying will tie in definitely later on when we get to like Norbert Wiener. When we get to Wiener, and we'll start talking about feedback systems, and when we get more into cybernetics and everything. So basically, I just thought this was a great one to start with, because it's just an early example of and it's pretty cool too, because like the guys were all mechanical. They were like, like first cuckoo clock or some shit, right? So that's a good trivia question. If you guys didn't know, Castle Clock, one of the earliest mechanical computers allegedly known. I don't know if nobody actually ever saw it. It's probably just a legend. And this is the guy's name there at the bottom, if you guys didn't like my pronunciation.
If you want to Google it, just type all that in.
We'll just call him Al Zahari. Okay, so in celebration of 9/11. Okay, so that. So what would be a good one to move on to next here? So
roll the dice, man.
I'm sorry. I feel like I need to put the hold music on here while I get myself figured out here. Well, here's a good one. We'll go to let me pull that comment down. I'm doing a lot of producering here.
Well, I tried to get on the Mac so you wouldn't have to, and I think that's what was causing the problems. I'm blaming Mac.
Now, this is one that we touched on last night. We started on Neurojack stream. We talked briefly about Walden, but Walden is the ace of chalices here, or ace of cups. And then if you guys are not, most of you probably familiar with Thoreau, with Walden's Pond, civil disobedience, the transcendentalist movement, that kind of stuff. A famous U.S. Philosopher, famous writer. Most of us had to read Walden's Pond in high school, I think, at some point in time.
Yeah, I thought it was shit. I'd probably like to read it again now. I was like 17. I was like, yeah, this sucks.
No, we were talking, when I was in high school, when I got out of high school, I thought I wanted to do the Walden's Pond thing, and you'd go out on these hiking trips and you'd meet some random guy out in the woods. He's like, yeah, I'm doing the Walden Pond thing, man. Like,
come back to my tent, bro.
Come look at ants with me, bro. But yeah, so the row is the Ace of Cups there. Ace of Cups represents abundance, fertility, productivity, pleasure, happiness.
Okay, by the way, I don't think we mentioned this. This deck is like expensive as fuck and it's out of print. And I actually fucking found one on eBay for $20. If you know how to like use eBay, you can set up searches to pop up like so it wasn't on eBay forever. And then one popped up and I bought it for like $20 and then I resold it for like $400. And some of them go on bid for like $400, $500, $600. And but now that it's back on eBay, like people can see what it's worth. So since it wasn't on eBay for over 90 days, like people probably looked it up and had no idea it was worth money because it won't show in the sold history and shit. So just a little humble brag that I flipped 20 into 400 real quick.
I was gonna buy it too, but
I was gonna give you a deal, bro.
I know
I would have rather had you have it.
I slept on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never find it again.
So that's the Ace of Cups, the Lord of the Root of the Powers of Water. Fitting that he was the guy that wrote Walden's Pond. So, anything you'd like to add on Thoreau there, Mr. Machine?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Thoreau is like, I think also the journals of Thoreau, you know, where he talks like very anti-tech kind of stances. He like set the stage for people like Mumford and all those people. Definitely he had a lot to say on that, but one of the most underrated pieces is his you know, civil disobedience, you know, where he influenced Gandhi and Martin Luther King, you know. And that's one of the crazy things in the Walden book. Stuart Brand talks about in his Whole Earth catalog how Kaczynski actually used this, the way that Thoreau built the cabin in the woods in order to construct his own cabin in the woods. So it's funny, he used exactly the same measurements and shit that Thoreau used for his cabin. But also in civil disobedience, it's like crazy. It's very anti-democratic. You know, he talks about how like democracy is failing. He says all voting is a sort of betting with one's conscience, that the way that you should actually have change is like direct democracy. And that's a lot of ways that Rousseau wanted to do shit too. He wanted like direct democracy and shit. And these guys were really part of the Romantic era and the occult revival. You know, like Thoreau read like the Gita and shit like that. So he was like a weird, like perennial thinker as well. But yeah, yeah, Thoreau's definitely an interesting character.
We'll get into that Rousseau later, right? EBT, there's another card for him.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get into Rousseau and the social contract as well. And I think it's interesting that Thoreau is put into this deck with all these other people. I kind of see it as like an adversary card. Same thing with kind of like Ted K and stuff. Like these are people that are kind of the opposing view somewhat to kind of the technocratic push that's going on in this deck. But at the same time, a lot of some kind of his underlying philosophies also kind of do play into or used and manipulated in other ways.
Right.
They really kind of have the similar kind of thoughts to some extent.
Well, like Machine Lies was talking about, like the influence of Gandhi and Martin Luther King.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's something that Benton likes to talk about too, how that is the nonviolence is pushed by the system, right? Because that's what they want. They want you to stand down and shit like that.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that that Uncle Ted wrote in Systems Need Us Trick, is about how it's used to trick people, how nonviolence is actually used as an excuse by the system, promoted by the system, because all they're really doing is giving recommendations to the system on how to reform itself. So
right.
He said, and then, so he's like, you know,
so exactly what we have here on the screen, like the cabin, this is his cabin. Isn't this kind of what we see in modern times with like the tiny house and all this shit?
Yeah,
Shed
yeah,
living
it's
is
like
the thing now. Shed living, they call it.
Yeah, and it's funny that that's at a museum. they have it
Yeah,
in it.
so it's
They
like
do it the whole.
don't have a house, don't raise a family, just live in this fucking shed or live in this tiny house or something like that. It's almost like they want to get you in these pods and shit.
Yeah, let me see if I can.
That's why to me, I don't think it's far fetched to think of Ted Kaczynski as an actual plant or whatever, like a COINTELPRO. Like I watched your last stream, Machine Lies, and what you were talking about that dude HT. Can we talk about him? I don't know if we can, but you were talking about how that dude is like basically a plant for like anti-Semitic tropes and stuff, right? Like this could be kind of the same thing for, as they know they're going to press this technology further to get an early grasp on the people that are going to resist the push of technology. But I think the ultimate plot twist to me is actually that Theodore Kaczynski is actually an advanced AI robot. Now that's the fucking plot twist, bro. And that's why he had to send those bombs, bro, because that's just what he was programmed to do. That's why he was so against it. He didn't want to do that shit, man. That's why his IQ was so high.
Yeah, and there's a question as to how much the MK Ultra shit was like some sort of super soldier program. Definitely in David McGowan's book, Programmed to Kill, he talks about certain shit like that. He talks about how every serial killer could have been potentially owned and operated as a Manchurian candidate by the government, being used as like super soldier like training programs and shit.
Yeah, just like
Because if you
programmed assassins and shit, right?
yeah, because
some of
if
that
you look
shit.
at because if you look at like Ted Bundy and you really read about like his horrific crimes and shit, it's like what would actually make a normal person want to do some shit like that? And there's nothing in their life that you really see that actually motivated them to do these things. So then you come to the conclusion that maybe some sort of switch was turned in their head, and that could only happen under extreme duress, probably under some sort of training program or something like that. And it makes sense because if you were really an environmentalist or somebody who was concerned about human dignity, then why would you go and encourage people to go and commit violence? And that's a lot of what Dr. Skrbina went and wrote his letters to him for, because I guess to a person like Dr. Skrbina, he's against technology because he's against violence, the violence of the system. So why would you then use violence against the system, then incurring more debts, more pushback from the system itself? Because they're obviously gonna just clamp down on whatever they're doing after that. So really, you can see today, because it's the anniversary of the false flag event. It seemed like it's like they could use a lot of other false flag events today, and the top one they're going to use, because they're trying to put in this international system, is eco-terrorism. They're going to have train derailments, they're going to have chemical spills and shit, and they're going to say, well, it's there's an attack on the system, we need to clamp down on the system, have greater infrastructure, greater smart technology and stuff to go bring in. So they might even do some of these attacks on themselves to bring in new technologies. Say, oh, look, the old shit isn't secure, and eco-terrorists have exposed the fact that, just like they did in 9/11, because they used it to bring in all of this national security, so
They brought in a lot of shit with that, man.
yeah, so people wonder if it's actually the attack itself that is, or did they do the attack so they could put in all this cybersecurity measures? You know what I mean? That's obviously one of the angles for it. So yeah, I mean, I could picture them doing the same thing with lots of mini Kaczynski guys coming up, popping up, eco-terrorists, to where they're false flag terrorists, to where it lets people know, no, we need to clamp down on the system. We need greater cyber controls. We need greater shit. We need greater management and all this stuff, to where people didn't want that before. But now, because, they lost power for like a week or some shit, they're ready to do it now. You know what I mean? They'll be ready to do it after they after massive power outages or some shit and eco-terrorist attacks.
Right. And I don't think it'll be I don't think it'll be little Kaczynskis here and there. I think they'll blame AIs, rogue AIs or something, so they can legislate some types of AI legislation.
Right.
But they can just do whatever they want. They can just shut down Wall Street and say, "Well, it was an AI, went rogue or some shit."
Yeah, I saw that too in the recent AI hearing. They had lots of shit like that where they had whole scenarios, doomsday scenarios, and then said, well, we have to bring in regulation. And then obviously, because anybody, as it stands now, almost anybody can create an AI system, like in a garage. So that's not very optimal. So the fact is that because the technology turns out is not very complex, they have to regulate it, So yeah, definitely they're bringing that in.
Okay.
Shout out to the chat, man. Happy 9/11.
So that was a good one. That was Thoreau. So let me see where we're at here. So yeah, Thoreau was the Ace of Cups. Let's go ahead and just keep on cups, and we'll move on to Queen of Cups. Let me find her here right quick. The Queen of Cups is going to be Ada Lovelace.
Is that a porn star?
Sounds like it. Bear with me here. Ada Lovelace. So Ada Lovelace was the daughter of Lord Byron, who is a famous romantic poet. She's known as the world's first computer programmer, and this is in the 1800s. So let me get some links pulled up here real quick on her, so we can go over her real quick. She's a pretty interesting figure as well. Let me share screen.
She's considered what, the first computer programmer?
The first computer programmer, yes.
Was a woman. So she couldn't get a man to listen to her, so she had to create something. She had to create a golem to listen to her. Just the woman's desire to be listened to.
So this is her, Ada Lovelace.
To press your button, she had to press a button.
So she was the only legitimate child of the poet Lord Byron. This was Lord Byron here. He's a famous guy within the Romantic movement. Also was involved in some wars and whatnot. But she did the mechanical computing for this early calculating machine, the analytical engine. She was considered to be the one that developed the algorithms to make this device work.
Just looking at these old machines is crazy to me.
Yeah, so we're still kind of same kind of stuff like we were talking about with the castle clock. It's a mechanical computer.
Just the to be able to visualize that in your mind, to make the blueprint or something is fucking insane to me.
And then I've got a short video that we can just go over and get a little bit to know about her, because she's a pretty interesting figure. Most people never heard of her.
Greatest poets, but her mother, hoping to steer her away from those dangerous poetic tendencies, made sure she received tutoring in math and music, and it worked. Today, Ada Lovelace is considered by many to be the first author of a computer program, despite living a century before the invention of the modern computer. As long ago as the 1840s, Lovelace envisioned machines that could manipulate symbols instead of just numbers. And while there are some who would debate her title as world's first programmer, there's no denying her influence as a gifted mathematician who was also way ahead of her time. Her father was the poet Lord Byron, and while he wasn't around for much of his daughter's life, he too encouraged her to pursue a career in science. In 1833, young Ada was introduced to Charles Babbage, a mathematics professor at Cambridge University, who today is commonly recognized as the father of the computer. Ada was 17, Babbage was 42, but intellectually they were peers. Ada soon met and married William King, the Count of Lovelace, and took on all the stuff went with being a nobleman, wife, and mother, but she continued to correspond with Babbage for the next 2 decades. Babbage's most notable invention was the analytical engine, a brass and iron steam-powered machine he first envisioned in 1837. It included a central processing unit called the mill and expandable memory, which he called the store. Controlled by punched cards, which could be used to input data, the engine could be
How many
programmed
views does this have?
in mathematical operations. In 1843, Babbage asked Ada Lovelace to translate a description of his engine written by an Italian mathematician. Over the next 9 months, Lovelace did just that, but also appended her own set of notes, which ended up being 3 times longer than the actual translation. They included some of Babbage's own calculations.
Right, he wrote like a little script, but it's just that the screen constantly like does something.
The machine's possible applications. She
If you
also
just read this, it'd have
how
like
it could be
400
used to
views.
calculate an arcane, brain-teasing sequence of figures known as Bernoulli numbers. She proved it by diagramming the computations that the analytical engine would make, which, believe it or not, looked like this. Essentially, she had written a computer algorithm. She also speculated that the device might be used beyond numbers and could be used to manipulate anything within a fixed set of rules. She said it could be used for both practical and scientific purposes, and it might one day compose elaborate pieces of music of any complexity or extent. Basically all the stuff that we use computers for today. While the analytical engine was never built, Lovelace's translation was published and well received, earning her fans in Britain's scientific community, like pioneering electrochemist Michael Faraday. In 1852, at the age of 36, Lovelace died of cancer. It wasn't until 101 years later that her work was republished, just as people were starting to actually build the computers that she envisioned. And it became clear how prescient she was. Lovelace
Okay, well, hold on.
Like to call herself
That's
an
propaganda.
analyst and metaphysician.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing
kind of
seems
seemed like
sus to me.
it seemed like some bullshit.
Yeah.
Don't sound
Yeah, I
really
call bullshit on that.
Yeah, Ada Lovelace, I think, is seems
Why didn't they
pretty-
show her blueprints, like her like little, her little math and shit for how she built the computer? It's just like, it's like, look, well, where's her little, her little architectural blueprints for the fucking computer? Shit.
Maybe it was like an early tranny or something.
It sounded like she just described how one could be made. She's just describing the manipulation of symbols. And that could be part of her whole occult thing, because that's basically
Then some
what Byron,
simp went and did it, and she got all the credit.
yeah, because Byron and Blake and all these guys, they're like Swedenborgers. They're like hardcore Swedenborg proponents. Even Thoreau was a proponent of Emanuel Swedenborg, and the whole thing with Swedenborg is like mixing like spirituality with science, and that's why Pierce. Percy Shelley and shit, he conducted electrical experiments like on his family and shit. He had like an electrical machine. He would like subject people to like experiments and shit. Fucking he drank out of a skull, and then one of the and then one of the other things that he had was he had a daughter named Mary Shelley, who wrote the work Frankenstein. And Frankenstein, this dude basically used electronics to like reanimate this person or whatever that's like made of different people. It was basically one of the first like a metaphor for cybernetics, because you could take parts of dead parts of a different thing and bring it to life through electricity. Was the thing.
Galvanism.
Yeah. So they kind of had this whole system, and it said in that Wikipedia article right there that we just read that Byron and Shelley were like best friends. Like Shelley and Byron, they both like basically studied the occult together. They studied Swedenborg together, and they were like into like how to combine spirituality and science. This fucking dude, Swedenborg, was like a scientist. He was like obsessed with like scientific experiments and shit. Like he was known as a polymath, and he could like, he knew like architecture, like chemistry, like he knew like all the subjects and shit. Like but
Yeah, then we go a little further. You'll even see in New York, the Rockefellers funded that giant Swedenborg cathedral. So all these people really are kind of involved with Swedenborg once you look into it a little deeper, for sure. He's a pivotal figure in a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, I know Gen X Jeff. He's out there in the chat, and he was saying how he actually follows like Satanism, or like a modern version of Satanism. And one of the most important figures that he cites is actually Byron. You know, his poetry. You know, Byron and Blake's poetry is one of the most the fascination of transhumanists and romantic and romanticists and Satanists, you know, of all stripes. And one of the main things that you know, one of my favorite quotes is by Freeman Dyson, who said in the future you know, machines will be writing genetic code just as beautifully as Byron and Blake wrote lines of poetry. and it's like that's a scary fucking future for real. But that's really how they think of Byron and Blake. They think it's like the most beautiful shit on the planet, you know, for real.
For sure, very interesting. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was Lord Byron who said absolute power corrupts absolutely, or wasn't that him? Or it's very, very famous quote by him. But yeah.
Okay. So that was Ada Lovelace, Queen of Cups. Let's keep it moving.
Shout out to the chat, man. Make sure you guys go subscribe to Enslaved by Truth on YouTube and The Machine Lies.
Let's see here. I guess we'll just
mods are throwing the links, I'm sure.
See if we can toss it up to something. Let's go to 5 of Pentacles, because that one's pretty interesting. See where that is here. 5 of Pentacles is the internet governance. I wish we need a better image here. Hold on. Let me get the thing pulled up. Go ahead and chit chat for a second. We need some higher quality images to read these.
There's got to be some high res scans online or something.
There are on her website. Let me get them pulled up. I fucked up and I put the low res ones in that thing.
Amateur shit.
Well, there's a lot of work doing all that, man.
Nothing.
Here we go.
Oh, you guys missed my beard bows. I mean, I could lace them up right now.
Working. Here we go. Yeah, so which one is this? 5 of Pentacles. So this is the internet governance card here. So we have the physical infrastructure, code controlling infrastructure, maintaining all the content. We have the cloud services all here. We have all these different pillars or different groups that have really controlled or still control the internet to some extent. We have the Internet Engineering Steering Group, the Internet Architectural Board, the 1992, the Internet Society, the Internet Engineer Task Force, the Internet Research Task Force. That one's fucking still hard to read. Proposed Global Internet Council. The main one is this thing called ICANN. Let me pull that up.
I've heard of that.
So ICANN is the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. So this is kind of what gives you. This is this group that
runs domain names and shit, right?
Yes.
One of the things they do.
Much of its work is concerned with the internet's global domain name system, DNS.
TalkBodyOutline.com.
Right. Carol Baskin's dead911.com as well. So they facilitate the internet protocols, IP4, IP6.
Oh man, look at that! Look at the logo. Look at the logo. Go up. 11/11. Oh my goodness, 11/11.
Bam. Let's see
Satanic.
here. Created in 1998 in California. Its motto is "One World, One Internet." Basically, is formed by a computer research scientist that was involved in the creation of ARPANET. We covered ARPANET, I believe, on the first episode on one of the cards. We'll come across ARPANET many times, but if you guys don't know, ARPANET is the Advanced Research Projects Agency Network. So this was the early iteration of what would later become what we know as the internet and the web. This is where they laid out the protocols for that from the Department of Defense. These were the original institutes that were connected via this internet. All major research facilities, military research facilities, national laboratories, and prominent universities. UCLA, Illinois. This was at Fermi Lab. Stanford University is a big one. Moffett Field.
These are like, this is just like some straight hardwired shit here.
Yes.
Just like that AT&T long lines type shit we talked about before.
Yes.
But a whole different system.
Yeah, long lines and all that stuff. The microwave relay towers, all that stuff was involved with this, with all this stuff to some extent. Yeah, for sure. So, 1972, created under a U.S. defense contract. This was the early iteration of what would become the corporation that controls the internet. So, I think we all understand this, that it's not something that was just given to us, that it was a long-term defense project, and that obviously it was given to the public for purposes that benefit them and not so much us. But that's just that's just laying out
panicking, bro. Because of the stream, the elites are panicking.
They're letting us go though. So unless you guys have anything to say on that one, I think we can go to a next one. You guys fill some time for me for a second. I pull something else up here.
For sure.
What was that? That was Ace. What was that again? 5 of Pentacles. Okay, so let me see which one we can move on here next.
I think like we saw with that Michael Victor character, if you guys, too much lore to even kind of get into what it was, but there's people that actively like go and chase these old, like this, what we see here on the screen, these networks. People go and chase these like locations of all these networks, and they're all hidden in plain sight, man. When you see some of them, like it's like somebody's garage behind a building or something, you'd think it's a garage or a shed or something, and it's some kind of like a relay tower and shit. And there's active like groups of people that go and hunt these things today. So there was probably people doing that shit back then too. It would have been a lot harder to communicate with other people about the internet and shit.
Okay, so we'll move on to 4 of Pentacles. 4 of Pentacles is going to be Tim Berners-Lee. And if you guys are not familiar with this guy, this is the guy that's credited with actually inventing the World Wide Web. So the World Wide Web, as we know it, was an established connection between a couple different laboratories, CERN, Fermi Lab, and then Stanford University. And they were communicating between those laboratories using this infrastructure created by this man, Tim Berners-Lee. I had some other interesting stuff on this guy. I think I had a video pulled up for him that was good.
Robin said Thrift Books got this deck for $27. I went on there real quick. I'm like, I'm gonna buy this right now, but it's not on there, Robin. It's just like a back order thing. I was about to make another 400 real quick. I've found them in the past too. It's the same kind of thing. Like sites will list it, but they don't actually like have it.
It used to be difficult to explain what the web would be like. Now it's difficult to explain why it was difficult.
In 1980, when we used fax machines to share documents and travel agencies to book flights and hotels, Tim Berners-Lee, a young Oxford graduate, first came to CERN as an independent IT professional to computerize CERN's proton synchrotrons control system.
But back in the 1980s, at CERN, it was an exciting place to be. Lots and lots of information systems on different computers, on different networks, all incompatible. So the idea was that one should be able to communicate by sharing information.
He needed to understand a mass of information and how to link people, hardware, and software. For that, he wrote a program and named it Enquire, after a Victorian reference book he remembered from his childhood for giving easy access to a mass of useful information. Then he went back to the UK. When he returned to CERN as a fellow in 1984, the laboratory had grown to become a leading center for data network, and he wrote software that ran over them. In 1989, he saw an opportunity to join hypertext with the internet.
So CERN was an interesting place to be. It was, yes, it was advanced. It was somewhere where in 1989, most people had some sort of a workstation on their desk, which was unusual then. And a place where the internet, the network connectivity had just arrived. Well, the network connectivity had been there for a while.
Using similar ideas to those underlying the Enquire system, Tim wrote the first proposal for the World Wide Web in March 1989 and his second proposal in May 1990. Together with Belgian systems engineer Robert Caillot, this was formalized as a management proposal in November 1990. By the end of 1990, Tim Berners-Lee had the first web server and browser up and running on his next computer at CERN.
The number of hits on this machine, it started off as 100 a day, then a year later it was 1,000 a day, and then a year later it was 10,000 a day.
In 1991, the first web server outside of Europe was up at SLAC, the Stanford Linear Accelerator Center in California. Many would follow. In 1993, CERN management decided that the web should act as an open standard for all to use. That was an essential decision.
So the web we have. If we had not had that document from CERN, we would not have the web.
What the fuck? What was that?
Today, with nearly 2 billion websites, we do not remember and cannot even imagine a world without the World Wide Web.
60% of those websites are porn.
Yeah, and it's just interesting because like the first couple web pages, one of them was Fermi Lab, one of them was SLAC, Stanford Linear Accelerator Lab, and CERN.
It's just such an oddly produced video.
Yeah, and that was from CERN. That
like
video,
what, like it was an official video, and
yeah,
it was just
official
so
video
fucking
from
weird. Yeah, it was so fucking weirdly produced. Like the music choice, like like they could have got like Hans Zimmer or some shit. Like, what the fuck? like they just fucking played the same do 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 do. Like what the fuck is this shit? It's like worse than a car commercial. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the guy credited with inventing the World Wide Web, and you heard it out of his mouth that we would not have it if it was not for the fellas at CERN saying that the world could have it and that it would be an international protocol that everybody. Now we touched on this last night too about whether to use it now at this point. So
and Andrew Wilson disagrees.
They should have got the lady who made these cards to do the fucking video for this shit. What the fuck? Like, where was the art director there? You know what I mean? Yeah, real.
Okay.
But yeah, the one of the weird shits about the development of the internet is this sort of like crowdsourcing model, and I seen that on the card. It said decentralized systems and shit, and that's kind of like the weird aspect of, like, even Peter Thiel talks about it, you know, and that's one of the you know, the principles of like general semantics is like non-Aristotelian, non-Euclidean, you know, non-Euclidean geometry and non-Aristotelian logic, you know, that they use in constructing general semantics, like with Alfred Korzybski, with the guy we're just looking at, and but it all comes from this guy C.S. Peirce, you know, you know, who actually formed semantics, and they study like C.S. Peirce and stuff, his philosophy and shit, at the Esalen Institute and like places like that, where they're like, you know, they're huge proponents of C.S. Peirce, who was friends with William Blake, and he started a movement in philosophy called pragmatism, and that they use that basically for like it's like neo-Kantian, and that's basically what they use to develop this theory of general semantics. And with this fucking guy Alfred Korzybski, you know, I got this book by Alfred Korzybski, Science and Sanity: Introduction to General Semantics. But yeah, they use a lot of that shit to develop the computer language. It's interesting. Yeah, semantics.
Yeah, so the next one was 5 of Wands, since you were already touching on that earlier. William Blake is here as well, so.
Yeah, another Swedenborg.
Let me see if I can pull up the next one that we could go into here. Let's see. I guess since you mentioned computer languages, it'd be good to go ahead and touch on this one. Which is the 8 of Pentacles, which is, let me find it here. The 8 of Pentacles, which is Soviet ternary computers.
What does that mean, ternary? I don't know what that means.
So the basic computer is binary, right? So it's ones and zeros. These are the early iteration of what would later become what is called alleged to be like a quantum computer. So this is operating with multiple bits of information, not just zeros and ones. So I have a short video that we can go over for that. That one. This is another one that you don't really hear anybody ever talking about for the most part. But
this is Soviet tech, then.
Yes. Yeah.
Like USSR.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me see. I had a short clip on this one. Let me pull it up here real quick. Yeah, building the base 3. We'll just go over this one for a few minutes here while we.
There we go. Soviet wave.
Pretty dope. Pretty dope.
CPU.
No, this is not. This one's boring. Damn it, wrong one.
27.
No,
The intro is lit.
No, I don't want to listen to these people. Basically, no, that's not the one I wanted. Sorry, but basically, it's a more complicated computer. So I don't know. I don't know if we need to go.
Is it real or is it bullshit?
It seemed like it was probably real. I don't know. Maybe I can. Maybe I'll pull up a whole different video on it here real quick. Ternary. How the fuck do you spell that? Ternary. Computers. I spelled it wrong. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Bear with me here real quick.
The night of the tech gremlins.
Ternary computers. to see if there's one that's like. I don't think it actually was ever successful. I'm not sure if it actually.
Oh, it's just like models or some shit.
Hold on. Yeah, let's just play this one.
Binary, I explained why it is that computers use ones and zeros to think. The ones and zeros represent the state of a single electrical cell inside the computer, which can be one of two states. But is this the only way of doing it, or are there other options that let us work with more than just two states? Well, actually, yes, there are. And in the early years of computer engineering, people experimented with computers that could use base 3, base 8, base 10, and even base 16. So why were these methods abandoned in favor of binary? If you want to know, then this video is just for you. So to clarify one thing, when we refer to a transistor being on or off, what we really mean is that it's either a high charge or low charge, respectively. An on cell has a very high amount of electricity stored in it or moving through it, while an off cell has a low amount. These states determine whether or not a single cell represents a 0 or a 1 in our binary code. So if a computer can read and write data to these cells by sensing or storing different amounts of electrical charge in each one, why can't we get more specific with them? What if instead of less than 50% charge being a 0 and above 50% charge being a 1, we divided it into 4 segments like this? Now 0 to 25% charge could be a 0, 25 to 50% could be a 1, 50 to 75% could be a 2, and 75 to 100% could be a 3. With this method, each individual cell could have 4 states, meaning that each byte of data could be a number designed around base 4 instead of around base 2. Where a byte of 8 transistors could have 256 values with base 2, our new system could let us have 65,536 values with base 4. Way better, right? Better yet, what if each cell could represent 8 or 10 or 16 different states by making the bit even more precise? Well, as mentioned above, these methods were experimented with. The amount of states a single cell of information can hold is referred to as a logic level. Binary is called 2-level logic, and the one I just described would be known as 4-level logic. The fundamental problem with using logic levels greater than 2 to represent numbers is reliability. While computers are really good at storing and reading the electricity in each cell, the exact voltage tends to fluctuate a little bit. Take a look here. The sort of natural fluctuation of electricity means that the level of voltage in this cell of data wobbles off by, let's say, 20 percentage points. Even if things get really bad, like 40% off, we have a lot of leeway on either side. For an on state, we try to keep it at 100%, but if it falls every now and then, it's still above 50%.
Anyways,
and
you guys
remains
get it.
interpreted as a 1. But in our method of splitting into fourths, even
You guys get it. You guys get it. You guys get it. It's just fucking computer stuff. I don't think we need to go any further on that one. Let's see here. Let's get into one that Machine Lies can probably go off on here for a second. What was I looking at?
I wanted to say a little something about that shit that we just saw.
Go ahead.
Because there's some shit that probably the general populace is not aware of in terms of that shit is first of all is this whole notion of this 3-valued logic. You know, it comes exactly from the shit that I was describing before from Charles Sanders Peirce, you know, C.S. Peirce and his theory of semantics, where he said that some shit, because in logic, see, you could have something true or not true. So you could have P or not P. But he said that shit doesn't actually strictly have to be like P or not P. You could have some shit that's in the middle of true, some true or not true shit. And that's basically what the thing is. That's how they arrived at this non-Aristotelian logic, you know, that's used to make semantic systems. And that's where you get the thing where something could be not 0 and not 1. It could also be like 2, or the you know, you could have 0 and 1 and 2, or like, you know, you could have a 3-valued system. you know, where you have 3 different operators and shit. You know, and then and the same shit that works in math works in logical systems. So they had to combine math with logic, and they did this first in the Principia Mathematica of Alfred North Whitehead and Bertrand Russell, where they created symbolic logic, and then they used the same you know, language that they use for symbolic logic is what they use for computing. You know, so it's interesting because like he tried to make this, I guess, overall way to evaluate all the statements and figure out if statements are true or false, whereas you could put the statement inside of a computer and it would pop out on the other end, you know, if the statement is true or false. You know, they try to create this system, you know, in the Principia Mathematica, and that's where the shit comes from. It comes from non-Euclidean math, non-Aristotelian logic, and the theories of Kurt Gödel's and Ilya Prigozhin and all these mathematicians that described how to make these systems that were like you know, probabilistic math, you know, probable math systems, non-linear dynamics and shit. But yeah, anyways, yeah. But yeah, I'm sorry. I just feel like all that shit is relevant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. Perfect. Yeah, we're not the. It's exactly what we're looking for. I'm sorry. This producing part is a.
You know, I wish I could help you more. I can't even, like, when I type a comment, I hit enter and my computer just like lags for like 30 seconds. I wish I could do more.
No, that's fine. I'm just trying to pick ones that can keep it going here. What about Technogaianism?
Oh,
there we go. Technogaianism. Let me share that screen here.
It's a long ass word.
Yes, sir. I'm going to share that. I'm going to step out for just a second. I'll be right back.
What would Technogaianism be like eco what, terrorism type shit? Or
well, it actually comes from this dude. Well, Gaia theory. I think it's like dealing with Gaia theory, and it's interesting in Gaia theory. Wait, James Lovelock. Yep. Actually, it mentions James Lovelock right there. So yeah, I have the writing by James Lovelock. And basically he's a Lindisfarne Institute scientist. You know, Lindisfarne Institute is the same shit that came out with Elaine Pagel's Gnostic Gospels. It's the same shit that came up with Michael Murphy and the Esalen Institute. You know, so all these people went to Lindisfarne Association, you know, and this Lindisfarne Institute is also the place where they do all the yeah, another lady is Roshi Joan Halifax, who made like the Soul Trap shit. You know what I mean? She like basically created the Soul Trap theory shit with the near-death experiences, the NDE studies. You know, she like pioneered near-death experiences stuff. But one of the main scientists is this dude James Lovelock, and James Lovelock wrote a book called Quest for a work called Quest for Gaia, and I actually have it. But yeah, in this he talks about how the Earth is like a system, is like an intelligent system, you know, and how the Earth changed its conditions to allow life. So he talks about how the Earth has its own intelligence, that the Earth actually may allow the conditions so that life could be possible. So in other words, you know, kind of this visionary scope where the Earth is actually creating life and creating technology. You know, it's actually creating and destroying. So there's this inner harmony of technology that the Earth wants us to create, because the Earth is like Gaia. It's like a goddess. It's like an intelligent being, if you will. And he kind of proved this through scientific research and shit. The history of the development of life on Earth, how the Earth created an oxygenated atmosphere, and then life was made on Earth. So it's like it's talking about how Earth created the conditions so it could create life. So yeah, so basically
worship of the creation instead of the creator, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Kind of shit like that. And then obviously technology would be a extension of that. It says 1975, and you can tell 1975 is when they had like the picture of the Earth. They released like the Earth Day shit picture. So like it's like everybody's already getting cooking on like this idea that like we're all one planet and shit. So this entered into the conscience right when they're trying to make the internet and world government and all that shit. He wrote this paper, The Quest for Gaia, and it says consider the following propositions. 1, life exists only because material conditions on Earth happen to be just right for its existence. And 2, life defines material conditions needed for its survival and makes sure that they stay there. So he's talking about these two conditions and what to do about that. So it's about it's really a complex piece talking about Earth's biosphere, how Earth like created its own biosphere. And essentially the argument is that the Earth is an intelligent system, much like a internet or or any of those things, and it's really innovative in terms of climate science. He kind of wrote this shit. He wrote a postscript to it in 2006 called "The News is Very, Very Bad," where he talks about again this like planetary conscience, all this shit with the fucking global warming type of stuff. He wrote a book called The Revenge of Gaia. And yeah, I mean,
this all leads into like the climate hysteria and everything like that, because a lot of that was around that same time too. Like, oh, the polar ice caps will be melted by 1995 and shit.
Yeah, and it's more surprising like the type of shit that's coming out of this fucking Linden's Foreign Institute. I mean, you have like the Esalen Institute, the Human Potential Movement. You have like Elaine Pagels and the Gnostic Gospels, and it's all moving in like one direction. Obviously the Gnostic Gospels, you have this figure named Sophia, and Sophia is like the goddess of like the Gnostics. And then obviously you have the relation between Sophia and Gaia. It's obvious, that they're trying to just recreate Sophia or the Shekinah from the Kabbalah as this Gaia figure.
Then you're talking about the Sophia the robot type thing.
Yeah, it's funny that they called the robot Sophia too, but Sophia is actually the god in Gnosticism. It's a female god who created the world without a consort, and it led to the divine shards being kept in the flesh.
Yeah,
case.
we live in her abortion, essentially.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. But yeah, Gaia sounds a lot like Sophia. Or like, what do you think? Like, what do you think about that, EBT? It kind of
definitely to some extent, yeah, for sure. This Technogaianism thing is actually pretty. The Wikipedia page is very strange for very strange. But is a is a bright green environmentalistic stance of active support for the research, development, and use of there's that word again, emerging and future technologies to help restore Earth's environment. Technogaianists argue that developing safe, clean, alternative technology should be an important goal of environmentalists. So it sounds pretty mundane on the surface level. I don't know where they got to tie in Earth worship into the whole thing, but
it's kind of like this whole thing of that technology is not the problem, and but religion, humanity,
is bad.
Yeah, it's bad because it got us into this techno, fascist society. So what we need is new technology, and we need like green technology. And you see that a lot now. They say you got to push for green technology. So so they just want to update the technology, and that doesn't mean that it's going to be better for the people who are using it necessarily. It's like right now the technology is really good for the people who are using it, but it's shitty for the planet. So they want to make it good for the planet, but shitty for the people that are using it. But that doesn't solve the problem of how we're reliant on technology. You know what I mean? Like why can't we make our own technologies?
Yeah, look here. This is on the wiki page for Technogaianism. This is the subcategory genetic engineering. It says this professor of philosophy and bioethics at New York University claims that the human impact on the environment could be reduced by genetically engineering humans to have a smaller stature and an intolerance to eating meat and an increased ability to see in the dark, thereby using less lighting.
See in the dark. Like bigger eyes.
Lau argues that human engineering is less risky than geoengineering. Genetically modified foods had reduced the amount of herbicide and insecticide needed for cultivation. So they're proponents of GMOs, BT cotton, all this kind of stuff because they believe that it's actually more beneficial because it had
like little pale-faced, bug-eyed, like golem children that like live in like a technological like prison.
And then see, it's always weird too because then it goes back to like that Stewart, you were talking about Stewart Brand and like the whole Earth catalog and stuff. And one of the big parts about that was building these fucking geodesic domes and shit and like all these, this biodome fucking bullshit. Like,
it's from Buckminster Fuller.
From Buckminster Fuller, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, and he said that too. He said if you could take all the weapons and convert them into living shit, like shit for like life technology and shit, then it would be basically. And also Alexander Dugin has this kind of like steampunk vision of the future, steampunk vision of the future. That's another kind of.
Well, yeah, biopunk is one of the ones that the subgenre of Technogaianism. Biopunk, Prometheanism, the Zeitgeist movement.
Yeah, I'm into the biopunk shit because it's like it's like make your own like shit. Like I like that where they like show like YouTube videos like how to make your own shit like instead of buying it at the store. Like I'm a proponent of that. I'm a huge proponent of that.
What's diesel punk? Oh damn, diesel punk's cool. I'm gonna fall into a wiki fucking. Gonna fall into a wiki black hole here. What's this
that guy who wrote 1,000 Leagues Beneath the Sea or whatever.
Derived from biopunk is concerned with synthetic biology. It is derived of cyberpunk involving biohackers, biotech megacorps, and oppressive government agencies that manipulate human DNA. Most often keeping with the dark atmosphere of cyberpunk, biopunk generally examines the dark side of genetic engineering and represents the low side of biotechnology. Focuses on the near future consequences of biotechnology revolution following the invention of recombinant DNA. I wish that came from Eli Lilly Incorporated out of Indianapolis. Anyways, I don't think we need to fall into that rabbit hole there. But that one actually is super interesting. All the connected stuff to that Technogaianism. We had some of these I don't even know. What the fuck is biomimetics?
Yeah,
biomimicry?
biomimetics. Yeah, they're doing that now with the slime mold and trying to put chips into slime mold, because like slime mold, like they put it in a like inside of a train station, and it found its way like across the city faster than like anything else could like find its way like across the city. Like it found the fastest route, or the fastest way to design tunnels and shit. So they said if they could put a chip inside of a slime mold, and this is just a thing, they want to make technology that mimics nature.
Right.
That's a lot of what Technogaianism or what Gaia theory is, because it's saying that the Earth is basically an intelligent system. So you have to work with the Earth instead of working against it. And this dude, as I said, James Lovelock, Linden's Foreign Institute, and yeah, Linden's Foreign Institute promotes all this shit, Zen Buddhism and Kabbalah shit and Gnosticism and Esalen Institute shit, and all that stuff, where Timothy Leary and Terrence McKenna and all those guys come from and shit.
Yeah, this one I didn't spend much time looking into, but I mean, just going off the wiki page, I mean, you could look at this one for days. Very interesting.
Yeah, Prometheanism is another thing with the with Reza Giorgiani. He's got that. Yeah, he promotes Prometheanism, where it's like,
yeah, for sure, yeah.
It's like, yeah, we gotta like use technology to usurp the natural order. So you got to use technology against nature. That's the other side of the coin. Whereas this one says you got to use technology with nature. So essentially form quote unquote alternative technologies, alternative lifestyles and shit.
Yeah, I guess that parlays nicely into the Seven of Cups, which is Utopia.
Yeah, for real.
So what do we got here on this card? We've got the techno utopia there at the top. We can have a capitalist utopia, communist utopia, an ecological utopia, gender utopia, economic utopia, religious utopia, and the roots are totalitarian utopia and Arcadian utopia. And then at the top we've got heaven and hell. And then we got the pedo swirl there at the very top. Yeah, with that's obviously a PP. See the PP and the poo poo.
Yeah,
it's so gender utopia in there.
It's so confusing that religious utopia is on the hell side. It's like, well, where are you getting the concept of hell from, bitch? It's
right. Right. Yeah. Interesting. But I guess they come together in the techno utopia and they pierce the pee-pee into the poo-poo, I think is what the esoteric knowledge that's being dropped here on that one. I don't know. So yeah, so I mean that's kind of what we're talking about with the Technogaianism. There's always this idea that somehow we're gonna transcend this hell realm with fucking, like that guy said, we're gonna get like night vision and we're gonna get our meat shots so that we don't eat meat anymore, and everything's gonna be all right. Everything's gonna be great, fantastic. And then we can go to Two of Cups and we can have a summer love, man, flower power, civil rights movement. I don't think we really need to go too deep into that one. I think we all get that one.
But it ties into it ties into everything I was saying, because you know, if you go to Linden's Foreign Institute, you have Esalen Institute right there, and then you got James Lovelock right there. It's like they're part of the same motherfucking institute. Like it's like trippy. It's like all this shit came from the same people. You know what I mean? It's trip.
So, Five of Cups is Lovecraft, and I actually don't know much about Lovecraft at all. I've never really read any of his stuff.
Oh shit! I gotta show you guys about Lovecraft and shit.
All right.
School us up, bro.
Yeah, I know that in the life of Dexter Ward, you know, he's got this book called the Kanuni Islam, where he says the Necronomicon is really the Kanuni Islam. And if you look at this motherfucking book, man, I gotta show you guys this book. I'll try to drop this shit in the links and shit. But yeah, this book is tripped out. It's got like fucking some crazy shit in this book. It's got like models of shit. It's got those magic square shit. You know, EBT, those magic square shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where this shit comes from. And it's funny. The fucking book is called The Practices of Muslims in India. Rituals and Practices of Muslims in India. And he actually pulls it out on the life of Dexter Ward. He's got a book on the library called the same book, and he says, and the character in the work by H.P. Lovecraft says that's the Necronomicon. So he actually identifies the Necronomicon as this book. But yeah, I'm gonna put this shit in the private shit. But yeah,
let me see if I can just read what's on this card here while we're in between. I guess this is from the call of what the fuck I can't even remember how to pronounce that. The fuck, I know what the word is if I hear it. Chitlaholi or whatever the fuck the thing is. Chitulu, yeah. The most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all its contents. We live on a placid island of ignorance in the midst of black seas of infinity, and it was not meant that we should voyage far. The sciences, each straining in its own direction, have hitherto harmed us little. But someday the piercing together of dissociated knowledge will open up such terrifying vistas of reality and of our frightful position therein, that we shall either go mad from the revelation or free from the deadly light into the peace and safety of a dark new age. Or of a new dark age. I bet. Yeah, new dark age. That's pretty heavy shit, man.
You're supposed to look up his cat's name, Lovecraft.
Is it Zara?
I'm not sure, actually. Should do a quick Google real quick.
Nigger.
Pull it up, man. My daughter told me this one like a while ago. She was like, look this up, Dad. You think it's funny.
Yeah. It's Nigger Man.
It's Lovecraft's cat.
That's Nigger Man, I guess. Is that
what they say?
Was it fast?
And he wrote at the magazine Weird Tales. You know, it was essentially like these like little magazines they would sell for 50 cents. It wasn't a very lucrative profession. You know, it's basically like at the time of like comic books, you know, and shit, where they draw these things. But it was a magazine called Weird Tales where they had shit like Lovecraft, and they also had Conan the Barbarian and shit. So he actually wrote alongside the guy who wrote Conan the Barbarian, and they were part of the same like genre of like bringing back this sort of medieval style into science fiction. It was like, so they inspired like Lord of the Rings and shit like that, because they would bring in this kind of like medieval lore, Celtic lore into like writing this fucking, fictional tales. Whereas motherfuckers were moving more towards science fiction, they were moving more towards like medieval shit, fucking snakes and ladders and fucking warlocks and shit, and fucking potions and shit, so there was like two sides to the occult revival. There was a side of Freemasonry, which was like, let's go back to the medieval shit, let's go back to Shambhala. And then there was the Atlantis side that was like, no, we need to bring Atlantis back, we need to improve science and technology and create a transhumanist future. So there was almost this gothic futurism on the one side, that was like, let's create this like, new republic, new Rome in a way. And then there was another shit that's like, no, we need to create like this world, Techno-Gaia shit, transhumanist shit. So it's like, yeah. So Lovelock.
Do they have Philip K. Dick in this deck?
Philip K. Dick is not in here, no. Well, maybe he is. I don't think so. No. So let's
Lovecraft kind of look like JG.
Yeah,
Corny.
Okay, so where are we at here? Let me get back to screen sharing here. Go back there. So we did Lovecraft.
88 people in the chat. Appreciate y'all.
Oh, numbers are coming. Numbers are coming back up. They were tanking there for a minute. Let's. We did Ace. We did 2. Do 3 of Chalices was the Astrolabe. That's another example of an early mechanical computer of sorts. We did Castle Clock. We did Lovecraft. Dream sharing. This one's kind of interesting. The Six of Cups.
Yeah, the video you have on this shit, that's a weird looking motherfucker in that video.
Oh yeah.
Pull up this fucking dude. Just pull this fucking dude up.
Yeah. Shit, motherfucker. Aphrodite loves this dude. So yeah, I don't know if you guys, this is the morgue official guy. He's
that dude's nuts.
Okay, yeah, but this is about this is about this card.
And he's got the OBS symbol.
Yeah, so dream sharing, thought-based networks, screenless ultrasound headbands coupled into the right side of the brain, network-enabled telepathy, dreams recorded ultrasonically from the brain. Oh, you know what this reminds me of, though, is that lady that we were watching the other day. You posted that video, Drew. That lady was going on about how that bitch, the aura, and then the predator drone comes over and then zaps you, because Aphrodite posted that.
Something Wallace. Her name's Psi Energy, like PSI Energy. Yeah. Sabrina Wallace or some shit. Fucking bat shit, bro.
But I guess let's just let this creature talk about this for a minute here, and then we'll discuss.
Yeah, shit's not playing.
Pass.
Wait, shit's not playing.
Oh, my bad. I fucked it up. Sorry.
I thought, I think maybe it was playing for you, but not for everyone.
Yeah, I thought my computer's not loading.
Let's get started. Hey guys, if you are new here, join our War of the Mind and watch us wake up the world by subscribing right now. Also, my content is controversial, so make sure you hit the bell to turn on all notifications so that you know when something new comes out. So is it possible to share a dream with someone, and how would it work? Well, first we have to understand how dreams in general work. When you go to sleep and dream, that dream world is created out of the energy contents of you as a mind. In other words, that dream world is composed of your personal frequency contents, your personal energy patterns. Now, if you were able to be fully lucid and 100% conscious while you were in one of your dreams, you would be able to control every aspect of your dream because it's your own personal energy, your own personal frequency patterns, your own waveforms. So I want you to imagine that you're having a dream. Now imagine that you can see the waveforms that make up, shape, and control that dream. If you were completely conscious during that dream, you would be able to control those waveforms because those are your waveforms. Those are the waveforms of your mind. So you would be able to control your waveforms and the entirety of the dream. Now let's suppose that you are having a shared dream. Let's say it is a dream between you and one other person. Now, in that shared dream, it is no longer just your energy contents that make up that dream. You are sharing it with someone. So in essence, 50% of the waveforms of that shared dream would be yours, and the other 50% would be the second dreamer's. Again, let's imagine that you are both 100% conscious. Would you still be able to control every aspect of the dream? Well, you now have a competing mind in that dream. So imagine the waveforms of that dream once again. This time, instead of it just being yours, it's yours plus the second dreamer's. And you can imagine your waveforms being entangled with the other dreamer's waveforms as well. So if you want to make a change in that dream, you are now competing with the will and the mind of the other dreamer. So you no longer have control over 100% of the dream. You have control over 50% of the dream because you are now in competition with the will of another mind, another dreamer. Now let's imagine that you're having a shared dream with 3 dreamers. Now you only control 1/3 of that dream because only 1/3 of the waveforms contributing to that dream world are yours. It's evenly divided between the shared dreamers, assuming, of course, that everyone is equally conscious. What happens if you introduce a 4th dreamer into the shared dream? Well, now you only control 1/4 of that dream, only 25% of that dream. Once again, if you imagine the waveforms
Where's he getting
in
this
that
information?
dream, you can imagine each dreamer's waveforms being tangled up together.
Bro.
So each time you add a dreamer to that dream world, the control gets distributed among the dreamers. So you can imagine if the dreamers were all in agreement and worked together and cooperated, they could do whatever they want. They could build any structure that they imagined. But if they were competing against one another, well, there would be a sort of war, wouldn't there? As their wills would compete and different parts of the dream would shape and change according to competing wills. Right now, we're talking about a shared dream with 4 people, and each dreamer controls 25%, 1/4 of the dream. But now imagine a shared dream with 100 dreamers. Well, each person would only control 1% of that dream. Now imagine 1,000.
All right, that's boring me. Let's play this lady for a few minutes here.
Work with software biosensors that are DNA analyte derivative made out of your tissue, talking to satellites on position navigation and timing, NTS-3 accessible, no GPS needed, inside of your body. Your body is the network, your body is the node, your DNA is propagating the signal, no tower required. And that's the same system that I was born to in 1979 that they already had because Grandmother Rosicrucian and everybody else have been working on this for a couple hundred years. With databases and underground computers. How do you make great fire? Right. So, for me,
Right.
I'm like,
Yeah,
what the hell are you doing? Metamaterials? And everybody goes, what's a metamaterial? And I said, well, it's not going to be enough to get it in you with radio frequency due to the line of sight problems and all the other problems that we have with electromagnetic waves and beam forming. And it wasn't enough to have your MAC ID under control with the physical stuff. No. We, for $45,000 a year, sell the ability to log into you to your loved ones so that they can do an EEG overlay and they overwrite your brain tissue. Oh, you're just don't with the crazy thing because people don't really do that to me anymore. You shouldn't either. So La Quinta La Columna came out and said neuromodulation, neural stimulation, and neural monitoring, and it's excited by the graphene. And everybody goes, oh, and I said, yeah, and radio modulation. And that brings me full circle, radio frequency engineers. How the fuck is it that you don't know that we've had all of these systems going on with the Army, multi-domain sensing system with high accuracy detection exploitation system, patterns of life to develop the target, C4ISR, September 14th. What the hell? How is it that you don't know? Give me a break. How can that be possible? Over and over again, I'm sitting here trying to figure out why it is that none of you will open up and say anything to anybody, given that you guys have to be the ones that know how this is being executed. But It's demonstrated by the questions I keep getting. They're like, what are you talking about? Well, guys, when you get rid of our wireless body part and you tell everybody nothing exists except what they can see, you get rid of frequency, oscillation, cymatics, the power of sound, optics, radionics, and anything plasma derivative. Good fucking job. Because they connected this wireless body part to telephony in 1922, and they've been doing anything they want to ever since. You didn't tell anybody about synthetic telepathy in 1995. You didn't tell anybody about the wide body area network. You didn't tell anybody about the biosensors. So our youth have been biohacking. Now, damn it, Janet, this 1,500 year or 300 year, however long plan, we get Galileo and Copernicus out there, throw them in front and say, here, we're going to science now. We killed everybody with the Spanish Inquisition that could read books. Go. But that only lasted for 200 years. And that was only in private universities that you were allowed to learn. Then they start killing everybody again until they get back to the 1960s. Why does that matter? For those of you that don't understand from radio frequency what Langland's equation is, or the Rosetta Stone of mathematics, that took us to a new type of quantum encryption to break all the bit
Okay, I
series
gotta
of
find the
encryption.
part where she
With the
talks
L
about the
function and
drones, because I'll
meromorphic
pull up
changing
the
out
next card.
lertons and poles by cybersecurity standards. So heavy sync and the EEG and the brain are in there. We're a drone. Take a
Okay,
picture
this is
over
the
your
shit
home
I found.
and
This
lay out
shit
all the
from
other
Aphrodite
humans that you want to
posted
do
it.
something different.
Of course,
In the very
right?
same way, the spells that we cast
Aphrodite has
spell books over
medical training.
I have vector or feature
And she
values.
watches this shit and it's like, wow, it's totally true.
And those
Wow.
feature values are the Digi-ID, so they could be anything. And what we do is we order a drone, take a picture over your home of real time with the access that we have, and then we can fire up a generative adversarial neural network, an artificial neural network, or whatever we want.
Well, she actually is talking about some of the stuff that's in some of these cards, though, is what's kind of interesting, though, to me. That's even the one that we were on, the dream sharing, because she even mentions this to some extent.
That you laced everyone's ass to
Let's
the
get her
cloud
on the
and told
show.
them nothing. And then
But
we
she
had,
needs to
oh,
like,
you just can't take pain. Oh,
she needs to map this shit out, you know. She needs to publish like, she needs to like put like the sources and shit, like not on like giant
Handwritten on paper.
cards, yeah, giant like fucking.
Her whole room is just like fucking notes and shit scribbled everywhere.
Yeah, I was just like,
Yeah, she talks about it, how if you're like telepathic or if you're astral projecting or something, it's because you have a chip that's inside of you, and then the predator drone is programming you, and the only reason you have the ability to do that is because they're cataloging and data, making a catalog of your dreams and stuff, which I
looks
think
like
ties
my
into-
crazy person, my crazy person drawings.
This is what happens when women don't have like kids or a career, or, like a man to keep them in check.
Well, and she says allegedly she was big in the tech field, that she converted the entire state of Wisconsin to from dial up to cable modems. I guess herself did it all. So, but somehow I find
Wisconsin's
that
pretty big. She does look like a Wisconsin woman, though.
yeah, she definitely looks like a Wisconsin.
You go to a bar in Wisconsin, that's what's there. And you buy her a drink, and then she's talking the shit in your ear for like 25 minutes straight.
Yeah, that's definitely north of the Cheddar Curtain type of woman right there, for sure. For sure. Yeah, so she's pretty funny. Psy energy. Go ahead and
I'd say like Hammond, Wisconsin type bitch. Hammond.
It'd be actually interesting to go further into her, because I think a lot of these cards actually relate to some of the stuff that she's talking about. Let me go back to the cards. So we did dream sharing. We listened to that creature talk about it for a few minutes.
So
got
dream
bored
sharing,
with it.
real quick before we move on from dream sharing. I've told the story, I think, once, but I had a dream once and I met someone in the dream, and they told me their name was God, I can't remember what it is now. It was okay, very specific name. It was Cheyenne Nightwalker. She's like, my name is Cheyenne Nightwalker, dude. And I looked it up when I woke up, and there was like one person on fucking Facebook, like an old Native American lady with this name, Cheyenne Nightwalker. I was like, yo, that shit's crazy, bro. I actually messaged the lady on Facebook. This was years and years ago. but no, like the account was already like abandoned. That was even years ago. So I don't know. Never got a response.
Wow.
So shout out to Cheyenne Nightwalker.
I mean,
Shared
like,
dream.
was she a hooker or what?
It was an old Native American lady, like a really old, like it looked like maybe even her grandkids ran the Facebook or something like that, but it was already abandoned by the time I found it.
So I guess after watching those two creatures, I guess the good one to pull up real quick would be, let's see here, the Four of Swords. Four of Swords, where are you at? The World Federation for Mental Health.
It's what these truthers need. Look at it, it's got flat Earth right on it. Is that flat Earth? Is that what that is?
Yeah. The World Federation for Mental Health, established 1948. First president, John Rawlings Reed, director of the Tavistock Institute of London and chief of British Army Psychiatric Services in World War II. A worldwide social engineering apparatus penetrated into every community, making mental health a global priority to promote among all people, to promote. I can't even fucking see that.
You need the high res, bro. I got to see them symbols at the bottom. The fuck is that?
Let me see if I can do some zoomies.
Ooh,
Zoomies.
Ooh.
I don't know. They look like Ishtar stars or something. I don't know what's going on down there. To promote among all people and all nations good human relations and a high level of mental health in its broadest. This woman has terrible handwriting. Broadest biological, educational, and social aspects. This also ties in with the Macy's conferences as well. Pedo spirals there once again. I don't even know.
Spiral right into flat Earth.
Yeah. So the world. This was I asking when you looked up that what's his fuck, the sanity machine he was writing in that journal or whatever. I was wondering if that journal was somehow related to this group. But let me pull up the wiki for this thing because it's actually pretty interesting. World
The Insanity Machine
Federation for Mental.
I just watched that video again where he came on. Dude, my wife fucking wrecked that dude bad. Gotta clip that part out.
Let's see here. Founded 1948. The WFMH, International Multi-Professional Non-Government Organization, founded in the same era as the UN. The goal is to blah, 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 from the World Health Organization. Involved in all these world conferences on promoting mental health, allegedly. I don't know if I had a video on this one or not. I did some research on this one, but I can't recall it currently. So, anyways, we'll. Oh yeah, here, this one.
Marx, Stalin, Chisholm, Rees, Jung. What do psychiatry and politics have in common? Quite a bit, in fact. The foundations of mental stability and the stability of a nation really go hand in hand, don't you think? Well, today we're going to look at the communist agenda for the takeover of America as it was presented to Congress in the 1960s, compared with some of the foundations that the World Federation of Mental Health was based upon. And we're going to compare and contrast a few of these, and hopefully you'll see the similarities. So let's begin with a little bit of background. The World Federation for Mental Health was formally established at the Third International Congress on Mental Hygiene in 1948. Its newly elected chairman, Dr. John Rawlings Rees, and vice president of the Congress, Carl Jung, presided over nearly 4,000 participants that included psychologists, psychiatrists, and former mental health patients. Now, keep in mind that this is the same era in which the United Nations and also the World Health Organization were established. A quick tidbit about the World Federation of Mental Health is that it is classified as an international non-governmental organization, or an NGO. Now, the thing about NGOs is that they are free from all and any obligations to governmental, intergovernmental, and or corporate entities, and that their positions and defensive decisions in response to any political decision can be implemented beyond the reaches of a national government. So basically what that means is that an NGO's personal determination of what may or may not be moral, just, fair, right, etc., can be implemented and used at any point in time beyond the reaches of governments. Now, interestingly enough, this federation was the only NGO to give counsel to the United Nations for years on various different aspects. So here we have a global governing body being advised by a team of psychiatric professionals. The founding members of the WFMH included Dr. John Rawlings Rees and Dr. George Brock Chisholm. Now, Dr. Rees was the first president of the WFMH and a military psychiatrist out of Great Britain. He also had ties to the foundation of the Tavistock Institute on Human Relations out of Britain, which studied largely mind control and also the implementation of socio-psychological works into different facets of society, particularly politics. Dr. Chisholm, on the other hand, had a particular specialty in the psychological training of soldiers during the Second World War. Now, he was the first ever to hold the position of Director General of Medical Services, the first to head the medical ranks of any army in the entire world. These were two very intelligent and potentially dangerous military strategic psychiatrists to have created the foundations of what the global mental health community now rests upon. In fact, right now, you can go to the World Federation on Mental Health's website, and it clearly states that their original principles and foundations are still used in the work that they do today. Now, on the side of the communist agenda, well, anyone with half a mind can see the socialist principles being put into place by our modern-day governing bodies. However, we'll save that discussion for a future video. But on January 10th of 1963, Congress opened a record of 45 points of fact for the communist.
This chick's pretty
base. As an excerpt from the book, The Naked Communist.
Yeah, the more I look at her, the more attractive she becomes.
Are strikingly similar, not only to what's going on in our government,
Pretty is just
but
ruthless.
also to the founding principles of the global mental health community.
Yeah, I look down at her hips. I'm like, damn, she's got something going on there.
And also
making
from
hips.
the excerpt from The Naked Communist, and let you form your own opinions on their comparison. So let's start off with communist goal number 11, which states, promote the UN as the only hope for mankind. If its charter is rewritten, demand that it be set up as a one-world government with its own independent armed forces. Now, the reason I bring this up is because of the strong ties between the World Federation on Mental Health and the UN, at least originally, on an advisory status. Because among other victories, the World Federation on Mental Health helped the United Nations to set up the NGO for the Mental Health Council, which is in place today, and also works on creating platforms for the Economic and Social Council of the UN. So we have politics, society, economy, and psychiatry all together under the United Nations. Okay, let's move to the next goal, which is communist goal number 17. Get control of the schools. Use them as a transmission belts for socialism and current communist propaganda. Soften the curriculum. Get control of the teachers' associations. Put the party line in textbooks. Now, psychiatry, on the other end of this, also has a very interesting viewpoint when it comes to education and control. Psychiatrist Dr. Chester Pierce addressed the Childhood International Education Seminar in 1973, saying this: every child in America entering school at the age of 5 is insane because he comes to school with certain allegiances to our founding fathers, toward our elected officials, toward his parents, toward a belief in a supernatural being, and toward the sovereignty of this nation as a separate entity. It's up to you as teachers to make all these sick children well by creating the international child of the future. And even further from that, we have Dr. John Rees Rawlings, who said this about the reaches of psychiatry. We can therefore justifiably stress our particular point of view with regard to the proper development of the human psyche, even though our knowledge be incomplete. We must aim to make it permeate every educational activity in our national life. We have made a useful attack upon a number of professions. The two easiest of them, naturally, are the teaching profession and the church. The two most difficult are law and medicine. And that particular point correlates not only to the latter communist goal, but the next two that I want to cover, which are numbers 27 and 28. Which talk about religion. And they basically say infiltrating the churches and replacing revealed religion with social religion. Discredit the Bible and emphasize, the need for intellectual maturity, which does not need a religious crutch. It further goes on to say that eliminating prayer and any form of religious expression from the school system is absolutely necessary.
Now, who does that remind you of there? Just that is this
Wally?
The doctrines of enslavia here being espoused? Kind of sounds like it.
Sounds just like heretic warrior and fupa grower.
Yeah, they had that same logo for their for that fraternity shit that you looked up, isn't that right? Yes, yeah, that's right. That's right. They got the same logo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's trip. Yeah.
comes.
Yeah, so that's a pretty good video. I don't think we need to.
That's the thing where Paul doesn't realize that he is like a UN fucking Zogbot. He doesn't even know.
And if anybody,
unless he does know, but I don't think so. I think it's just,
I don't know. He still hasn't really actually addressed the whole. His dad was just a bread truck driver, I guess.
Hey,
So.
did you see him? Did you see him streaming from Jennifer's fucking room? Motherfucker streaming about rights and freedoms in a granny chair and a live, laugh, love shit from Hobby Lobby behind him.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah,
The
chair. Yeah, the chair tripped me out. Yeah, for
Yeah,
real.
the
It had some like poetry and shit written on it. Yeah, yeah.
He's like, I got the results. Nothing wrong with living with a cougar. Nothing wrong with having a sugar mama, but don't act like it's morally superior to raising a fucking family.
It's like the old lady and the young guy meme. Let's get you that microphone now.
He's like, yeah.
Okay, so and then just in case anybody wants to look at any of these videos that we played tonight, I do have a playlist on my channel. You can go through it and finish watching.
Go to his playlist section and scroll through all 9,000 playlists, and you'll find it somewhere in there.
Yeah, I do. I have lots of playlists. This is quite true. In case nobody's looked at my playlist, let me just.
You're subscribe to everything too.
I always click. I just automatically click, man.
And even on Instagram, because I clicked we're showing the kids Monster Jam, and I clicked a Monster Jam thing, and it brought me to the Instagram and said "Enslaved by Truth." Subscribe to Monster Jam.
I don't know why.
It's pretty badass, but
yeah, I got quite a few playlists here. Some of these have thousands of videos in some of these playlists.
And you've watched every one of them.
Quite a bit. Well,
trolled every chat on every one of them.
Listen to quite a bit. Yeah. So somewhere in there is the HEXEN
Monster Jam.
Is the HEXEN? Yeah, I got a Monster Jam playlist. I got let's see, Schizo. I do have a Schizo playlist actually. Yeah. Philosophy. We got apologetics, Schizo stuff playlist. Yeah.
Shit, I gotta hit up the philosophy one.
We got that. Yeah, the philosophy one has let's see. How many videos are in that bad boy? 625 videos in that one. Quite a bit of stuff in there. So
damn, that's a dope T-shirt for real.
Go check out.
Hold on.
Yeah, that T-shirt is sick nasty for real. I don't even wear T-shirts, but yeah, that shit is dope.
Right here.
Yeah, that shit is a crazy design.
And then hold up.
Oh,
is that Illumitami?
Same eyes, right? That's him.
Same eyes.
Got a damn Illumitami shirt. How about it? How about you?
Illumitami shirt. You want the official Illumitami shirt? DM me.
Okay. Let's see.
Yeah, I want to get in on some of that old shit we were talking about. This video here, or psychiatry and communism, because she's talking about Jung, and she's talking about the Tavistock Institute, which is mentioned on that card, and they mentioned people like Margaret Mead and Max Horkheimer, who's from the Frankfurt School, and also Margaret Mead, who started anthropology, and also she was married to Gregory Bateson, who was one of the a person who laid down the foundations for cybernetics, and he was also one of the founders of the OSS. And a lot of people don't know that that Jung was actually an agent of the OSS, and that lady Mary Mary Bancroft was like his handler, you know, and he worked for the OSS, and you know, it's just interesting that a lot of his ideas, Jung's ideas, and all those ideas, they still live on today because of the Institute of Noetic Sciences, IONS. You know, they got a lot of that shit over there, and one of the markers that they're making in a world system today is they're gonna have well-being be an economic measure. So, like, instead of GDP, they're gonna use well-being, something called well-being, and I just presume that that relates to mental health and also health in general, medical shit in general. But yeah, creating a world.
There's a dude I covered in the past, and he works with the UN. What's his name? Is Jamie something, and his concept is called happytalism. And supposedly this dude was like raised out of the street and raised by Mother Teresa and shit. And he pushes the UN happytalism, how you will basically, this was even before you will own nothing and be happy. The precursor. I can't remember his name, Jamie something.
Yeah, that's one of the things they use in the World Economic Forum. They want to promote well-being as an economic measure, and I just talked about this in a recent talk I was looking at on my live stream by James Lindsay. Even James Lindsay be talking about how they're going to use this mental health shit as a new economic shit. You know, is kind of trippy for real, because and of course they're pushing it in the schools, and you can read about this in fucking works by like John Taylor Gatto, Ivan Illich, Deschooling Society. You know, they talk about how the school system is basically socialism. You know, if you could just, you know, possibly ways to like homeschool your kids or some shit. I mean, I would promote that shit just because it's just like, or like or even what EBT does, which is like this, you know, the Waldorf school, you know, or some shit. But you know, who's to say that's gonna be any better? Because then your kids get isolated and shit, you know, and they start to develop their own like niche ideology. When they talk to other people, they sound like fucking nerds and shit. So like,
Yeah, that's definitely a worry. That's definitely a
yeah,
worry.
it's like, you know,
I don't want to be fucking weirdos, because there are.
Yeah, either way, it's like you know, either way you're fucked. It's weird, you know.
Yeah, homeschooling takes a lot of commitment, and anybody that does do that, shout out to them. That's just not something that we can that I think that we can handle ourselves, and do a good job at it. So
yeah, Montessori, the lady who made Montessori was Fabian socialist too, you know.
Yes. We toured a bunch of Montessori schools, and I absolutely hated them. Fucking hated it.
I want to shout out quick Provo and Rad Dudes Vintage throwing down the super chats. I think he's trying to get a bid on this zombie Monster Jam shirt. Shout out to Rad Dudes.
Yeah, we toured a Montessori school, and one of the lady that owned it and ran it, she was like from Italy, and she was like direct student of the originator and all this shit. But it's like, I don't know, it's like kids just doing fucking workbook pages, and like, I don't know, this
is
terrible.
where you send your kids to the Waldorf school, right, EBT?
Yes, yeah,
that's what. Yeah, Coalitions of Seekers talking about that. So you just, how do the kids like it so far?
It's pretty fucking awesome. I mean,
do the kids like it though?
My 6-year-old loves it. She's doing great in it. The younger 3-year-old, she's getting used to it. It's not really her kind of thing. She's more of like the princess type, you know. She wants to just wear fucking dresses, and they spend a lot of time outdoors doing like outdoor stuff. So she's not really into that, and then it's hard. Like in the morning, like they have to go in and they have to wear like rain fucking suits and rain boots and shit every morning because they go outside in the woods like this first thing they do in the morning. So like that's been kind of difficult, but like it's doing really good for my 6-year-old. She's learning a lot. She's getting a lot of benefit from it. She does they do all kinds of foreign languages. They do play all kinds of different types of instruments and stuff. They do like handicrafts like sewing and knitting and all kinds of stuff and they do a lot of foraging in the woods. They teach them how to like garden and like actual like life skills and stuff. So it's pretty good. I'm liking it so far. So
it's expensive though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fucking expensive. Yeah, it's more than my mortgage.
Damn.
Yeah, so but once I went there, even though I'm not like a big fan of Steiner, it doesn't seem like his ideology is really pushed that hard within the school. I mean, there's some stupid shit that I don't like about it. Like you have to every morning you have to fucking do namaste to the fucking teachers and shit. And I'm like, that's fucking gay. I'm not doing no fucking namaste to you. Okay,
like the parent is supposed to.
Yeah, when I go to, because I take them every morning. Yeah, you're supposed to greet the teacher with the bow, and we bow here, namaste. Like, no, come on. And they do fucking yoga. They do yoga and shit too, which I'm not, I don't know. So, but
yeah, there's
some things I don't like about it, but it's not God. Like the Montessori school is godless. Like there's no concept of God in the Montessori school, and they just teach like fucking. So there's solar system shit everywhere in the fucking Montessori school.
Yeah.
Like, it's all like science based. There's no talk of God whatsoever in the Montessori school. At least in the Steiner school, all religions are taught and accepted and kind of, each can be their own with it. But then they also promote like fantasy fucking shit, like gnomes and fairies and all that kind of stuff too, which is, yeah. Gnomes are a big part of the school for some reason. Like there's some reason gnomes are a big part. I haven't figured it out yet, but yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, I don't know if you guys saw that TV show Lost. It's like
I know what it is. I never saw it.
Yeah, and that show, I feel like that show predicts a lot of stuff. First of all, that the plane that crashes on the island. It crashes on the island on September 22nd. So it's just funny. Like it's an obvious reference to when the plane crashes on the island in the TV show. So the TV show is actually about like 9/11 and shit like that. It's about the whole truth or world. And one of the main organizations in the show is like this organization that's on the island called the Dharma Initiative. And before you like enter the Dharma Initiative, they like come in and they all bow to each other and go like namaste, and it's funny because they're all like scientists, who run this Dharma Initiative, and it's kind of hard to like tell like what this is a reference to because they promote this like New Age philosophy where they like promote like science and spirituality. It's like really weird, and they live on this island. And and they're actually from in the show they come from Ann Arbor, Michigan, from the University of Michigan. It's really fucking like trippy. And like over here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, we have like all these motherfucking environmentalists and New Age types, and they like legalize mushrooms and shit. And it's one of the main things. Like if you go to 420 in Ann Arbor, Michigan, they have like a hash hash bash or whatever they call it, you know what I mean? And it's like everybody's smoking weed in Ann Arbor on 420, and it's like this really trippy shit that they do, this like selling psychedelics and shit. I remember I went there last time. I bought mushrooms and weed and all this shit. But yeah, like it's like this weird psychedelic and culture which is like science and spirituality mixed. And yeah, it just seemed like it just seemed like they weren't bullshitting with that concept in that show. The motherfucking Esalen Institute. The Dharma Initiative. It's kind of like the Esalen Institute or whatever, you know. Yeah.
With the
Yeah, I never really watched it very much. Okay. Let's see. Where are we at here?
Teaching your kids that all seeing eye.
The Wajit.
Yeah, and they actually have a character named Rousseau in the show. In the show Lost, they have a character named Locke and a character named Rousseau. It's fucking trippy. Yeah.
Yo, here's Benton talking about his favorite thing. Him.
What's up?
Shout out. Nightmare Dystopia.
Okay, my bad. I kicked myself.
You missed my Benton joke. It was just for you, EBT. I said, here's Benton talking about his favorite thing. Him.
Okay. Hold on. Let me get back on track. I kicked myself out and fucked it up. So I guess while we're touching on that, why don't we go? Fuck, now I'm zoomed in.
Get to the social contract.
That's what I'm going to. Let's go to Jean-Jacques Rousseau.
Here he is.
Nine of Cups, the social contract of Jean-Jacques Rousseau. This is one of his famous quotes from his book there. Man was born free and he is everywhere in chains. One man thinks himself the master of others, but remains more of a slave than they. Spiritual origins of the blah, 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 blah. Social contract, 1762. So how do we start here? Give me a second. Got to close out some tabs here.
I'm on the MacBook, so now I can actually do shit.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, I could straight up just talk about Rousseau because I read I basically studied all of Rousseau's major works for real. I read Discourses on Inequality and Social Contract a long time ago when I was studying political science.
So, how would you think that it kind of relates to the rest of the theme of this this deck then with the
shit. Well, like Rousseau basically started Romanticism. You know, one of the works that's mentioned there is his Confessions. And
yes.
Yeah, and he wrote all of these confessions and all of these tales about his romantic intrigues, and he was like brutally honest in some of these confessions and stuff. You know, he says like extremely embarrassing shit in them. You know, about his like sort of weird sexual intrigues, about how he like almost enjoyed becoming subservient to women. He enjoyed being flogged by women. He writes about that. And he kind of started this like kind of almost like the kind of like the faggotry of like the French shit, you know, where it's like kind of like the Marquis de Sade and kind of like that weird romantic element where it was like that inverse you know, sexuality. And he talks about that in his like novels and shit. And he would write a lot of novels from the female perspective. You know, he would write like I think some of the most famous ones where he would have a female protagonist, you know, and like her love story develop. He was like kind of like the originator of that in a way. So he was like the originator of Romanticism. So those guys like Blake and all those guys, and also on the philosophy side, he influenced Kant. Kant's whole ethics was based on Rousseau Kant read Emile by Rousseau and made his whole ethical system based on that. His whole moral system was based on Rousseau. His view, especially, and also that influenced Hegel. So you got from Rousseau to Kant to Hegel, you know, a direct line of influence to the Frankfurt School and the postmoderns, because they're like all into Hegel. Like Hegel and Rousseau, they just believe in those things, like how Rousseau believed in a general will, or a collective will of society. Hegel extrapolated a world spirit that moves through history itself. So he just extrapolated this theory to like a metaphysical world spirit, you know. But yeah, Rousseau's social contract, man, it's one of the most fucking weirdest pieces of writing. It's like the fucking weird political theory, you know. Obviously, he, in his discourses of inequality that's mentioned there, he challenges Locke, his whole notion of property. And that's where like the idea of, literally the idea of socialism comes from, you know. Yeah. So like he almost like invented anthropology, invented socialism. He's a crazy motherfucking thinker. Like you know, for real.
Should we do the short video here and just kind of
because I think there's some people that's probably unfamiliar with that.
Okay, yeah, let me share this one. I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick.
Potty break.
Yeah, this video is a banger for real. I like this video.
The channel where we discuss and debate different philosophical ideas. Today we're going to be looking into
is
some
that too
political
fast,
philosophy with a focus on the works of the 18th century Genevan philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau and his works around the social contract.
Excellent.
Now, a social contract is an agreement made between the people and the sovereign or the state as to how they will be ruled. You may have seen our video on Thomas Hobbes and John Locke's version of the social contract. Hobbes believed the sovereign and the populace agree that the sovereign shall have unlimited control and power over the population, provided they keep the population safe and stable. Whereas John Locke argued that the sovereign and the people agree that the state will have very limited power and shall only be allowed to exercise this power to protect its citizens' natural rights, life, liberty, and justice. Now, building off the works of Hobbes and Locke, Rousseau developed a new social contract theory that goes even further to balance freedom of the individual with the power of the sovereign. Quite simply, Rousseau's social contract claims that it is in fact the people that should become the sovereign.
What does that mean exactly?
Okay, let's start from the beginning. In his book, The Social Contract, Rousseau opens with the following phrase: "Man is born free and he is everywhere in chains." So, what does Rousseau mean by this? Going back to our early ancestors, the early humans and their primitive lives, humans were in fact born completely free. This is known as the state of nature. No societies, no lawgivers, no civilization, each person with 100% freedom. Now, those of you who are familiar with Hobbes will recognize this phrase. However, before civilization, where humans were savage, life was cruel, painful, harsh, and violent. Rousseau, however, did not agree with Hobbes on this point, but instead, he saw the state of nature as man's freest, most blissful time. People lived simple lives. They needed very little, and all they needed to live happy lives was given to them by nature in abundance. Man was free and had all he wanted.
I see.
This, however, changed over the course of time. The human population increased exponentially. We had to share the world and share nature with a lot more humans, causing scarcity and competition amongst ourselves. As the populations increased, humans had to start living closer together. One was because space was filling up, and two, so we could help and cooperate with each other. Families started to form, then tribes, then communities, then city-states, and eventually large countries. People started to become interdependent. People could no longer meet their needs alone. Each person was given responsibilities to help out their respective communities, and labor was divided among the population to make life easier for everyone. However, with this came private property and wealth, rewards for certain labor functions, and status for certain roles and certain people. Because of this, people would start to compare themselves to others. This desire to be better than your fellow man was down to a corrupted self-love Rousseau referred to as amour propre. From this amour propre, we would get greed, envy, shame, and pride. Slowly, certain people attained more property and wealth than others. Inequality appeared, and eventually, social classes were formed.
Interesting.
So now we have interdependent societies where labor is divided among everyone in the state. Of course, for the society to function, there will need to be a sovereign. There will need to be laws and rules to make sure everything functions. However, in this class-divided state, where certain people have a lot of private property, wealth, and power, Rousseau believed it would be in their interest to protect what they have and make sure they never lose their wealth and status. Laws of the land would directly benefit the rich and upper classes more so than the poor. That being the case, laws of the land would be skewered in favor of the rich and powerful to protect their private property. So, governments would be formed, promising to protect all citizens, but really, the laws and rules passed would only ensure that the rich stayed rich, that inequality would continue, and those who do not have would be unable to take from those who do have. And so, man was born free, but because of how human beings have developed, most men are now in chains everywhere.
Right.
Rousseau did not believe this was fair, but whilst this was undesirable, we are no longer in a position where we can go back to the state of nature. We have progressed too far. The aim then was to balance freedom and equality, whilst all living together under the laws of a sovereign. And so, there was only one sovereign that could ensure fair and equal rule over the entire population. There was only one sovereign that would seek to improve the lives of everyone in the respective state. To eliminate the social problems, inequality, and serve all people, the sovereign had to be the people themselves.
I see.
Rousseau envisaged all the people getting together and collectively forming a new body. This new body would be the sovereign. It would be its own entity that does what is best for itself. But because itself consists of everyone in the respective state, the actions and laws passed would seek to benefit everyone as a collective.
Right.
So, people would get together and look at what is best for the entire population. This, Rousseau referred to as the general will. People will put their own selfish needs to one side. People will forget about their amour propre and just look at what is best for the entire state. The general will is what the citizens decide at some form of assembly on how to do what is best for the entire population. Topics are discussed, people vote, and laws are passed. They cannot have any basis in selfish needs. The general will are laws and regulations that allow all to coexist in the best possible way.
Yes, this makes sense.
This new sovereign is the entire population, not just a few of the rich and the wealthy, but everyone. All people then surrender all their rights to the sovereign, and all that matters is what is best for the general will. The sovereign is absolute, with absolute power, but each individual makes the sovereign. No person or small group of people have this power. It belongs to everyone. Collectively, the sovereign can distribute land and individual property. It can issue the division of labor, it can levy taxes, it can pass any law that will benefit the general will. A government can be formed, but this government is just to administer the laws and regulations that the sovereign has set. Ultimately, it is all the people that have absolute power. Rousseau completely disagreed with handing over your right to rule to another, let's say to a dictator or a king or even a political party. Everyone should have the right to rule themselves. There should be no other authority.
Interesting.
Now, Rousseau has said that the ruling of the sovereign must come from everyone and must apply to everyone. This is the maximum freedom that an individual can possess in a state. They have a hand in creating the laws and they must then follow them. Sometimes what we want will be passed, sometimes it will not, but whatever is passed for the general will must apply to everyone. Should anyone disobey what is in the general will, Rousseau claims they will be forced to be free. They must conform to this ideal state with maximum freedom for all citizens.
Okay.
So there we have it. The social contract is that all people get together and create a new sovereign. This sovereign functions as its own entity, and we collectively work together to do what is best for the sovereign as a whole. We all contribute. We all have a say in how the state is to be governed, and we all put aside our selfish desires and motivations to look at what is best for the whole. This general will allows us to be rulers and subjects, to be completely free but bound to the laws of the land. It is the perfect compromise between living free in a state with other people, to live free in an interdependent world. We all get together and we all do what is best for everyone.
Very interesting theory, and yes, at first this seems like a very desirable state to live in. It is basically direct democracy, where the people as a whole decide what is best for their nation. We do not have to worry about corrupt politicians, we do not have to fear despotic kings or dictators. Collectively, we can become the masters of our own destiny. Each man is just as important as the last. Each vote counts as much as anyone else's. We are all equally free and equally responsible.
Exactly.
But of course, there are huge problems with Rousseau's social contract as a political philosophy.
Like what?
Okay, firstly, we all know the issues with direct democracy. The average person does not have adequate knowledge around politics, economics, cultural or social issues to be in a position to legislate on them. It may be a pessimistic attitude, you may disagree, but I think the vast majority of people will not have an interest in contributing to the laws of the land, or just do not have the mental capacity to understand and give any sort of informed, valid opinion or vote on the matter. So, what are we then left with? There will be vast amounts of legislation passed at assemblies where the wider population have not voted on, either through sheer laziness or ignorance. Nonetheless, they will be living under laws they had no part in forming. Effectively, the majority could very well be ruled by the more astute and informed minority. I would say that although everyone may not have the political, economic, or social knowledge and understanding to participate in legislation, the option is always there for them. They are not being disallowed from participation, but rather choosing not to participate because they feel they don't know enough. Should they become educated on the matter at hand and desire to be involved, they have a seat at the table. But does this not then run the risk of allowing people to legislate over areas they have no knowledge in, even if they think they do? Trust me, most stupid people I have met believe they know everything. We then have a very real threat that the laws of our land are being created by ignorant people. Well, I think the idea of the general will can escape this problem. If people believe they do not have adequate knowledge to legislate, then it will be in the interest of the sovereign that they do not participate. In addition, even if the astute minority find themselves at the assembly more than others, they must still vote and legislate based on what is best for the entire population. They must pass laws for the general will, not their personal will. So this is not really a very big problem. Again, call me pessimistic, but I do not think people vote in accordance with the general will. Human beings are selfish creatures. It is part of our nature. We will only vote for things that is in our self-interest and maybe our family's self-interest. I think the idea of the general will is a myth. All we have is the personal will, and legislation will completely depend upon the majority who share the same personal will. Okay, Rousseau does introduce the idea of what he refers to as the legislator. This would be a wise, intelligent, virtuous person who can explain and teach the average man about the situations at hand and inspire people to vote in accordance with the general will. You can look at this as a state figure that promotes collective identity. It advises the population on what is best for the general will and what will strengthen the sovereign and the good of everyone. Rousseau refers to this as changing each individual who is by himself a complete and solitary whole into part of a greater whole. What you are describing sounds like state propaganda. It sounds like trying to manipulate and engineer the masses to vote in a certain way. This is basically brainwashing. And how do these legislators decide on what is best for the state? I would strongly believe that the legislators would have a selfish interest too. We will effectively create a ruling class that attempts to manipulate the majority to vote in a specific way. This does not sound healthy at all. There is also a threat of creating homogeneous thoughts where any diversity or dissent from the legislators' beliefs could be suppressed and silenced. This is starting to sound tyrannical. Furthermore, Rousseau mentions that the sovereign would have absolute power and absolute control, and all people would give up all rights to the sovereign. This puts in place a great system for tyranny of the majority. In a diverse area with different thoughts, customs, traditions, and beliefs, majority rule would impact different people in different ways. Should the majority decide that a certain person or that a certain group of people are to be persecuted, this would be completely legitimate under this social contract system. I see. And finally, this form of direct democracy has a huge practical flaw. Whilst direct democracy can take place in small city-states, it becomes highly unlikely in countries that cover large landmass as well as huge populations. In a state that covers thousands and thousands of miles of land with millions and millions of people, how could they physically attend an assembly and vote on legislation? It would not be possible. Well, you could break down a large country into smaller regions. You can break it down into towns, boroughs, or cities and have those citizens vote for their respective areas. So then you'll be left with one country that could have hundreds of different laws in different areas. You're in one city with one set of laws and you drive 10 miles out and you are met with a new set of laws. This is wildly impractical and in fact does not inspire unity or collectivity. For me, Rousseau's social contract has a lot of philosophical problems, but most of all, it is wildly impractical and basically impossible in today's world. I would have to disagree. Personally, I think in today's world, with the internet and the possibility of blockchain-based voting systems, we have never been in a better position to start introducing direct democracy. If you would like the script to this video, it is part of the philosophy.
All right, there you guys go. That's the layout there. The layout there of Rousseau's social contract, and a pretty straightforward thing. But how does this tie into what we're talking about with the Internet of Things, and the new social contract that we're now involved with, being part of the Internet, being involved in that, and what kind of governance? Who is this entity that's controlling all this stuff now? How did Rousseau put it? This enlightened control organization or whatever, right? So we're gonna need some kind of technocratic control system put into place.
Yeah, it's interesting what he said at the end there, that with the technological state, it seems feasible because you could run it through a social credit system or a Bitcoin system. You know, that's what the guy proposed at the end there.
Mm-hmm.
That you could actually run direct democracy, but you need the internet to make it happen. And that has been proposed by sort of people who are going back before the Enlightenment thought. And that's another interesting fact, is that Rousseau really firmly rejected the thoughts of Locke and the thoughts of Hobbes. First of all, he rejected their thoughts on human nature, but he also had significant rejections on their political and economic systems.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he proposed a more socialist system. As we've seen here in this video, he proposed the system of direct democracy. But what isn't written here, or what wasn't really explained in the video, was how he attacked the Enlightenment philosophers, namely Diderot and Voltaire, you know, who were two other names that were really responsible for the French Revolution. But some of the social contract theories were used because actually Rousseau was forced to leave Geneva. I'm pretty sure he had to flee to like England because he was attacked for writing the social contract. He actually had to run away from town because they throw rocks at him at his own house and and attacked him at his house. And he wasn't very popular for writing this work. But one of the things he attacks in the work is Christianity. It's very interesting. It's very anti-religious. He says that you can't make a system where it's Christian, where it's the church also runs a theopolitical system, but then in the other sense, he uses all of these Christian virtues to develop his ethics because he read Thomas A. Kempis, Imitations of Christ, to derive his values and ethics.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. So he's like on one side trying to realize a Christian state, but on the because his dad was a Calvinist preacher, but on the other end, he's trying to do away with Christianity. He's against Christianity in the social contract. He says that you should make a quote unquote a stately religion, a religion based on civic virtue, and he actually recommends different religions to Christianity to make that happen. He actually recommends Islam versus Christianity. He says there's no such thing as a Christian soldier. He says you can't have a such thing as a Christian soldier because a Christian basically serves two masters. You know, he said that if a Christian's country is failing, then he says that the country is blessed because blessed are the poor. You know, but if the country's succeeding, you know, then he says that, again, we're being blessed. You know, so he says there's no way to look at politics in terms of Christianity. But then again, he uses this sort of e pluribus unum of Paul, where we're all united as one parts of a greater whole in the body of Christ. You know, he kind of applies that to the state, to the general will. So it's like he's kind of like using Christianity, but not using Christianity, you know, and this is where like people like Nietzsche like blamed him, you know, because he's like, wait, so are you a Christian or are you not? You know, but then when you get to the French Revolution, obviously, you know, they wanted to build the Temple of Reason. They're like, nah, fuck religion. So any of that religious shit that Rousseau wrote about, they just dumped it, you know, and they went with the Enlightenment thought. They said, no, we're going to double down on Enlightenment thought. You know, so yeah. So that might sound nerdy as fuck to a lot of people, but it is what it is. You know.
Yeah, I'm not sure who this crosshatch figure is here, but yeah, like parlaying that into the theme of this deck here. Here, this is the Internet Security Alliance, which is mentioned in some of these cards here. But here, where they go in, and let me just tell you who this group is from the get-go. So what is the ISA? The ISA is another NGO that kind of is overseeing all these policies that directly informs all these major world government organizations. So we like we've talked about earlier on in this stream, the ISA has also been a thought leader in cyber public policy. ISA cyber security social contract defines a market-based as opposed to regulatory approach to cyber policy. It was the first and most often cited source in President Obama's cyberspace policy review and the basis for Executive Order 13636. That's interesting. I need to pull that one up, which initiated the NIST Cybersecurity Framework Agreement. So here they have a publication of theirs on the social contract. Here you see the concept of the social contract is popularized by Rousseau, Locke, Hobbes, others. It initially focused on the relationship between the individual and the state, and what each would exchange with the other in order to achieve broader societal order and benefit the community. So in the early 20th century, the social contract was adapted to exchange between corporations and the state in order to achieve mutual and greater benefit for the social order. At this time, the hot technologies were telecommunications and distributed electricity. Initially, these services were provided where the economies justified them, urban and affluent areas. The policymakers of the area not only understood the universal service of these technologies would have broad social benefit, but also realized government couldn't accomplish this on their own. Moreover, compelling the private sector to provide the services without adequate compensation would be an unstable model. So a social contract, essentially an economic deal, was developed. Private companies agreed to provide universal service at regulated rates. In exchange, the government agreed to continue a substantial rate of return on their investments. Thus was born the rate of return regulation and the private investor-owned public utility. And it worked. The broader systematic benefits of the social contract were enormous. The electrical and telecommunication infrastructures were deployed at an accelerated pace compared to other nations that chose a government-centric model. Moreover, the infrastructure is adequately supported by the economic incentives embedded in the contract were continuously made more sophisticated and innovative. So anyways, this is more of these these NGOs kind of controlling the layout or the rollout of a lot of this stuff, and the NGOs being able to kind of put in their own ideologies into this, and we'll see this in these upcoming cards here. One, the cybernetic systems of intelligence gathering, feedback, behavioral control, but it's not the one that I think would parlay the best into that. There is one here on economic cybernetics. And this is kind of what you were kind of touching on there, about like social credit scores and all this kind of stuff. And maybe we'll dive into some of the cybernetic stuff a little more here. But, since the cybernetics already went into effect, we're already being, we're already under the control of these systems, whether we're in a, your credit score, all these things are automated systems. When you apply for a loan, it's going through an automated system, and it's being determined what the output is once you go into it. Most of the stock market is already under control of these types of systems. And a lot of this was funded by these research projects funded by people like the Club of Rome and stuff like that. Even who's the famous Chinese cybernetic guy that the Americans actually, they detained him for like years so he couldn't go back to China. I can't remember his name now, but Club of Rome did like this research program where they decided that to control the overpopulation, they had to really start halting the economies globally, right? And this was what resulted in like the one child thing in China, right, where you could only have one kid and stuff. So, and then that's when they started implementing more of these cybernetic control systems in financial stuff, whether it's your credit score, whether it's the stock market, all this kind of stuff. So all these systems are already really have been in place for many years already. We're already being controlled and being part of this social contract, which, you know, it's we have an obligation to the whole because we are part of the whole, essentially, right? And that's kind of what Rousseau is getting at with the, you know, we become the sovereign to some extent, but there still is the sovereign itself is this entity that is kind of, we make it up, but we're still part of it, but it's still above us. We're still, you know, we still have to abide to the sovereign, even though we are part of it, right?
Yeah, and that goes to the Murray Rothbard sort of thing, the exit and voice type of thing, where they want people to be part of this joint stock corporation. And it really is people like Mencius Moldbug, who created this Urbit computer system. It's sort of a decentralized model for a computer system. And then they're applying this notion of these decentralized models or decentralized systems to economics, and of course the theory comes from cybernetics itself. And you got people like Peter Thiel, who's also talking about decentralized systems and how to organize society and do research through decentralized systems. And he's one of the main proponents of like Palantir and all that shit. Like he made whatever that defense program, Palantir. And yeah, it's interesting that one of the videos you had in the thing where it's showing the feedback loop, and the guy says, it's interesting what the guy says. He says control is always found within the system and not imposed from the outside. And that's kind of the.
I found this actually clip. I'll play this clip of that in case, since we're getting to cybernetics, since we're going that way. So, like, the biggest thing in cybernetics is the feedback loops within the system. Essentially, it's breaking everything down. Everything essentially is a machine. Even the human brain, the human person, the mind, all of it can be boiled down to basically a machine. And then there is always this feedback loop within the system. And then Wiener was really into these control. Wiener was really into the governors of steam engines, and I think this is a funny clip because it's just we're going to be Beavis and Butthead on this one. But
you can watch my car. Oh, come on.
In that family scene, we see one sort of feedback, where something causes something, and then that feeds back to increase or decrease the cause. But Wiener was interested in feedback for control, in order to make something happen exactly as he wanted it to happen. Wiener did not invent feedback because it had been used by engineers and others before Wiener. But Wiener made it into a science, made it into a mathematical form. Let's see how feedback affects the world.
A classic mechanical example of feedback is James Watt's ball governor for the steam engine. As the speed of the shaft increases, the balls are flung outwards by centrifugal force. This information is fed through a mechanical linkage to the steam valve, so shutting off the steam. This allows the engine to slow down. The balls slow down, sink towards the shaft, and the engine now can speed up again and reach a stable speed. Paris, London, the end of the 70s.
I don't know. It was balls and shafts, in case anybody missed that one. But where was the one? The one was Stafford Beard, and we'll go ahead and since he is one of the other pioneers in the the field of cybernetic. Would you say he's probably at right behind Wiener, right? The Stafford Beard guy. He's the king of cups.
Yeah, Wiener, all these people who made these general semantics, you know, the three valued logic guys, those Russian cats, also Gregory Bateson in his Ecology of Mind, you know, is also an important work in how they see nature as a cybernetic system as well. It's not just human beings and the machines, but also all of nature. You know, because of epigenetics, you know, they have extended it to nature itself. But yeah.
The important thing to realize about systems is how they are controlled. And we must get rid of any notion straight away that control is something imposed on the system from outside. It has to be built into it. Now, you saw me operate this governor just now and noticed how the engine slowed down. Let's see how the mechanism works. Suppose the engine is racing, then the governor flies open like that. You see it lifting here, transmitting the message along here, lifting that cam up here, and then shutting off a valve there. That is built into the system. It's called feedback, and feedback is ubiquitous in control systems.
So what's the web?
Yeah, so that guy that was just there is one of the big guys in this whole movement.
And it's exactly what, yeah.
I tried to listen to some of his lectures. All the audio quality on them really sucks, but are you familiar with this ratio club?
Yeah, a little bit, but yeah, this notion that he's talking about this sort of technological determinism, about control itself, you know, this notion of control within a system, that's literally like one of the base shits of like cybernetics, is the notion, because control is like, it's like steering. You know, it's like it's like in a car you have acceleration, you know, and then you have you know, the you know, the brakes and all that stuff, and you have the motion and the movement and stuff, but the car can't go by itself. It also needs steering, and steering is the element of control. You know, so control within a system, I mean, that is sort of that, you know, ghost in the machine type of shit that they're talking about. This one is really hard for people to swallow. I know when you talk to somebody like Andrew Wilson or something like that, they can't even imagine that control could come within a system. You know, it's exactly what he said at the end there, that you know, it's not going to be coming from the outside, that and that the ubiquity of control within the system is what defines the system itself. Is that it's not necessarily that, you know, we're saying that the system is in control of itself, but that a system, that's how systems are created. That's what it means to be a system. That's a definition of a large scale system, of a dynamic system, is that you know, it exercises control from within. You know, so just trying to explain that to somebody who doesn't understand basic shit about technology is very, very difficult. You know, and that's why I was excited to do the AI debate, because that would not be a question to somebody who's debating AI, because people who program AI systems already know that. You know,
right?
You know, but people who program shit like robotics, like Andrew Wilson, to them it wouldn't be so obvious, because robotics is dealing with mechanics, and you would put everything in motion because it's about electronics and you know, mechanics and shit. But
Right,
here
right.
we're not dealing with that. We're dealing with cybernetics. You know, it's a different level of control. You know, yeah.
I want to play this little clip on Wiener that I thought was pretty good. I don't know if I added this one to the playlist yet or not, but
only the exact amount of blood needed to keep the foot from freezing is allowed to leave the trunk. This, then, is the cybernetic way of looking at things. As you see, it is by no means just a limited theoretical aspect with no practical application. On the contrary, cybernetics, coupled as it is with mathematical control methods for solving new problems, can be applied to all aspects of science and technology.
Does your thinking approach also apply to economics?
Indeed, it does. To some extent, it always has. Higher demand leads to higher prices. But if the price rises, then the demand decreases. That's the ordinary law of supply and demand. The same holds for the labor market as well. Wage increases that are excessive lead to unemployment, and this in turn is supposed to reduce wage demands.
Why then doesn't this seem to work anymore?
Because the connecting links and their associations are really affected by psychology. With strong labor unions or good unemployment benefits, the fear of unemployment is less than it was, and so that link is weakened. In many cases, the wage demands are not seen as the cause of inflation, but as a result of inflation. Since money has already lost its value, demanding a higher wage is not automatically going to lead to more unemployment.
So the problem with the free market is that we can never be certain of the links or of their nature when these occur within the minds of individuals.
That's true enough, but the basic principles of cybernetics still apply. It only means that we have to apply them to people as well, rather than to imagine that economics is something that happens outside people, according to certain mathematical laws.
What are the limits of the application of cybernetics to economics or human affairs?
The same difficulty applies to all mathematics. If you could define the relationships exactly before you set out, and then translate them into mathematical symbols, the mathematics would work perfectly. But it is in choosing those relationships and defining them that we have the problem. Nevertheless, we are going to have to understand ever more complex systems if we are to deal with the future. Without that understanding, there may be no future.
Earlier in the program, we heard how Wiener first developed his feedback concept when he was trying to.
So that wasn't exactly the clip that I wasn't at the right time, but that was a pretty good clip too. That tied into that cybernetic economy card that we were on before. Let me see if I can find where I wanted to be though.
And first class.
Yeah, but look at that subtitle there. That
Comes from the
subtitle's
Greek word.
insane. You know, it says control and communication in the animal and the machine.
Mm-hmm.
Just that subtitle, you know, I was talking about that subtitle is fucking insane, and the way it's connected to the Frankfurt School and the theory of I mean the report on the authoritarian personality. You know, with the MK Ultra shit, it's all in line with the same types of people that were thinking along the same lines, you know, on the postmodern level of what a human being is, what these systems are, what large scale systems seek to accomplish. And in that one documentary that I'm showing a little bit of on the channel there is called The Net. I forget what the subtitle is, but it's like the Unabomber LSD, but it's all about how these people like Stuart Brand, and all these people were related to the people that are developing cybernetics, but they were also related to the same people who started the counterculture.
Yes.
And it's like the transhumanists and the people who promoted psychedelics were like essentially the same fucking people, like Ken Kesey and all these other people. It's fucking, you know, weird that they were all friends with each other, you know.
Yeah, I got the Kesey on Letterman on Letterman clip, but it was pretty strange.
Yeah, he's one of the main figures in alternative to mental health too, because One Flew Over Cuckoo's Nest is like this whole rebellion against the mental health system, you know. And
well, and then what was the other thing that he wasn't the Band of Merry Pranksters? What is that? Is that somebody else?
yeah, that's him.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah,
that's him. Yeah, he was friends with Stuart Brand too.
Yes, yeah, they all came out of this Menlo Park. Was a big part of it. Yeah, the acid trip, the magic bus, all this kind of stuff, and this was something that Stuart Brand did as well. He started originally. It was the Whole Earth catalog truck shop or something was what it started off as, and then that became the Whole Earth catalog. I guess I
can't even show this book, but this book, The Media Lab by Stuart Brand. He actually quotes Ken Kesey in this book. He has a quote by him saying, "You can't you could tell how many seeds are in the apple, but not how many apples are in the seed." So it's an interesting quote that he uses to describe the origins of the kind of computer math.
Let me see if I can find the one. Yeah, here we go. This is Stuart Brand's.
Yeah, they got a Whole Earth catalog there. Huh?
The Whole Earth catalog, and you know, Steve Jobs said that this was Google 35 years in advance.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
But when I was looking, there's this guy. I don't know if I put this one in the playlist or not. There's a guy that worked on the catalog with him. This guy. Yeah, let's show this so people know what we're talking about here, I guess. Let me switch tabs here.
People lately, maybe 20 and 30-year-olds, about the Whole Earth catalog, which actually came out about 50 years ago, and they don't really know what it was. And it was such an important thing that I thought I would drag out my old catalog and describe it a little bit to you. And Steve Jobs, in a commencement address at Stanford in 2005, said this about the Whole Earth catalog. When I was young, there was an amazing publication called the Whole Earth catalog, which was one of the Bibles of my generation. It was created by a fellow named Stuart Brand, not far from here in Menlo Park, and he brought it to life with his poetic touch. It was sort of like Google in paperback form, 36 years before Google came along. I was in 1966 and 67 living in Big Sur and building geodesic domes. And I started getting letters from people in different parts of the country asking for the mathematics for domes. And I realized that I was writing essentially the same letter over and over again. And I thought, well, I should maybe just mimeograph up something to send out to people. And then I thought, well, while I'm at it, there are other things that I've been excited about in recent years that I've learned about, like organic farming, ecological awareness, political activism, the I Ching, astronomy, meditation, music, the Bob Dylan, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles. Anyway, all these things were revolving around in the counterculture. And it occurred to me that I could put them all together and put them in some kind of a booklet and publish something. In 1967, I guess it was, a friend of mine gave me this book here, The Dome Cookbook by Steve Baer. It cost $1. And it was a story of building domes in New Mexico out of chopped out car tops at Drop City. And so Steve had put together this book. And when I looked at this book, it was just done on a typewriter with handwriting. He'd just drawn crude graphics in it. Here's the basic solids. He'd written sideways. In some cases, what he had done in here, you can see what he did here. And in some cases, when he made a mistake, he would just cross it out, and he left it that way. And I thought I could do a book like that.
It reminds me of that lady that we were watching earlier.
And so that was the first inkling I had that maybe I could do a book. maybe 6 months later, I met Stuart Brand, and I realized that Stuart was much farther along in getting all this information together. And so Stuart came out with the Holder catalog in 1968. It cost $5. It was 64 pages. It was done on a newspaper press, and it combined many of the things that everybody was interested in back in the 60s. So here's some of the pages. Here's making books. Here's direct use of the sun's energy. Here's on growth and form, which was on the structure in nature. Here was the Dymaxion world of Buckminster Fuller. We were all very interested in Bucky Fuller's ideas on cars and domes, space structures. Here's catalogs. Here's the Heathkit catalog, which included building your own computers. Here was a book, Intelligent Life in the Universe. I mean, building computers, this was almost 50 years ago. Here was the medical manual. Here was land for sale. Back then, everybody was looking for lands. The Strout catalog and the United Farm catalog. And they would show pictures, and there would be these great looking, here's a waterfront 1 acre, $23,000 in like Tennessee. Here was the L.L. Bean catalog, which was important to Stuart. We gave him kind of the original idea to do this catalog. And L.L. Bean catalog was rain boots and all kinds of things, insulated pants, clothing that you could get via mail order. Here's a recreational equipment catalog, REI back then, which was in Berkeley. I think it actually started in Seattle. One of the things that Stuart did was he had very accurate access information. So here's a book on hot springs. Here's a book by Richard Brodigan on trout fishing in America. So he had the title, the author, the date of publication, the number of pages, the cost, $1.95, and where you could get it from City Lights Books. And so each one of these items in here had very accurate access information. Here was a book on science experiments for everyone. Here was the Edmund Scientific Catalog, which I loved. It had model making kits for domes. It had the radiolaria, little vacuum sealed globe that you put in the sun that spun around. So this came out, and it just struck everybody as the most wonderful thing. Everybody loved this. He concluded by saying, we can't put it together. It is together. And what this is here, this is the first view of the Earth from space. That was the big deal about the whole Earth catalog. It was the first time we saw the Earth from space, where we saw this shimmering blue planet and got the idea of how fragile it was.
Yeah, and that's the blue mark. Allegedly, that's the first non-composite image of the Earth, but I think most people in this community call bullshit on that one. But basically, there was 3 laws that he had established in what essentially it's like a tool catalog. I don't really. It's just like it's like a hippie fucking anarchist cookbook, or with where you can order shit, I guess. I don't know, but there was 3 laws that he had in it. 1, everything is connected. 2, everything's got to go somewhere. And 3, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Those were the 3 laws that Brand had there for his philosophy. This idea that it's the conceptual forerunner to the World Wide Web, though, I don't really understand that, though.
Well, I think they just threw that in because of his work at MIT, at the Media Lab, and it came out around the same time when they started the Media Lab project at the MIT. It's just that same year, 1985. So it's just, it just must have been his connection with that project, and how influential that project was. And how it's a commentary on combining, if you look up, or I'm trying to look at what the things that they combined here in the Media Lab, but he had a cool type of map of all of these different things that would be connected. Oh yeah, here it is. It says broadcast and motion picture industry, computer industry, and print and publishing industry. That all these things would become combined through computers, and this was kind of their goal, and kind of like the information he's presenting here is kind of on those terms.
So what's the web?
That it's kind of going to be like, it's like print, broadcast, but it's also about cybernetics and computers. You know, that people are like, one of the things they say in Media Lab is that people are going to be able to send movies through the telephone modem. And that's like basically like essentially they're like in a really weird way just describing what Netflix is, you know. but it's just like they were planning on doing that back then, and they were saying, well, this is going to be a crazy use for propaganda, education. I mean, you can think of people getting the news, people getting information. They thought this was going to be completely revolutionary, and it is. You know, the fact that they were that they planned to do this, they did it, and it's had a worldwide impact on people. You know, I mean, just that is fucking. I mean, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's fucking crazy. You know.
Because here's the man himself discussing the
Kind of
inspiration.
nature that we need a lot more STEM knowledge to really carry through, I think. But that negotiation is taking longer than I expected, and taking on climate with a level of seriousness that it needs to be addressed is taking much longer than I expected. But in '68, hey, remember I was 29-year-old, I didn't know squat. And one of the reasons I did the whole Earth catalog is to, maybe the way you sort of did some of these courses to learn about them, was to, I was saying I'm going to help the people doing communes figure out how to do all these basics they care about. They didn't know how refrigerators work. They thought you could grow a garden by just sticking a stick in the ground and throwing seeds at it. And got over that in one season, and then either gave up or they actually learned how to do it. Well, I was one of those people who wanted to learn all that stuff. And so the access to tools and skills was my own desire to learn those things. But, 29-year-olds have a intense, short view of the world. And one of the great things about us getting more older people around, and you will discover this as you get older, is your range of not only personal experience expands, but your sense of participation in history expands forward and back. And the more back, the more forward in a way. And then you start to get comfortable in the long story. And that's sort of what I impart these days. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that didn't make a whole lot of sense, but so basically, Whole Earth catalog, some fucking hippie commune shit with some fucking Buckmaster full. I don't know what the obsession is with the fucking geodesic domes and shit. Like I don't know what that's all about, but strange. So Stuart Brand, pivotal character in this whole thing. Who else can we go to? Here, I know this one. I know you like this one. Heidegger.
Oh shit.
So let's see if I can zoom out just a little bit more. So let me see what this card
Oh
says.
yeah, it's got it right there. The question concerning technology. Yeah, that's one of his main. Yeah, it's one of his main works. And
her handwriting is so terrible. Let me read this though. Thus questioning, we bear witness to the crisis that in our sheer preoccupation with technology, we do not yet experience the coming to presence of technology. That in our sheer aesthetic mindedness, we no longer guard and preserve the coming to presence of art. Yet the more questioningly we ponder the essence of technology, the more mysterious the essence of art becomes. Member of the Nazi Party.
yeah, this is like, yeah. I was hoping we could play another video, but I'm actually gonna have to do some do some work here. But yeah, to explain Heidegger. But yeah, I remember.
I got a short Heidegger one if we need a break. No,
Yeah,
that's
I got a lot
only 2 minutes.
Yeah, I got a lot of good.
I got Heidegger on cybernetics, but the guy is foreign and he doesn't speak very well.
Yeah, Heidegger was one of those figures at the cusp of. Well, he's really billed as an existentialist philosopher, and I think he might have been the person who originated the quote that existence precedes essence. Because of his deep phenomenology. Because after Kant, you go to Hegel, And after Hegel, the premier like phenomenologist after Husserl, Husserl was the teacher of Heidegger, and he was like kind of like the king of phenomenology itself, where they had this neo-Kantian view. They have three systems really. They have British empiricism, which collapsed with Hume, because Hume had this radical empiricism where he rejected causality, because he said everything's just fucking billiard balls like crashing into each other. So you can't really predict anything that happens. So he just like, moved into this radical empiricism. So empiricism collapsed, and rationalism collapsed to a certain extent because it just moved into like Spinoza and stuff. So rationalism moved into like complete like pantheistic doctrine, because Spinoza basically found he basically explained how how Cartesian dualism is totally fucking like illogical. He basically proved it like in a mathematical like logical argument why like Cartesian dualism is like it's basically untenable. So rationalism collapsed with Spinoza, and empiricism collapsed with Hume. So then you had this German system of German idealism where Kant tried to mend these two things together with his system, of the correspondence theory, of knowledge. But then that kind of collapsed into phenomenology with Hegel. So Heidegger talked about this problem of technology, and here he was at the cusp of this thing, because really, empiricism, rationalism, and idealism are not really making a statement about metaphysics in so much as they're making a statement about our perceptions and how the human mind gains knowledge in the world. So Heidegger wanted to focus on technology, because it's like technology is this fucking middle line between creativity, which is mental process, and this physical process, which is actual like physical shit that we make. So he wanted to focus on technology being this process of inframing. So he talks about inframing. That's one of his key terms that he uses, is inframing within his philosophy. And he talks about the process of inframing in the one sense in technology and revealing in another sense through science. He said science is the study of nature, the study of revealing, while technology is inframing, which is concealing means to end processes. So this is a key definition in technology that's interesting, but really it's interesting because it's at the cusp of this philosophy of mind and technology, and really we studied it with Dr. Scribina here in this anthology, Confronting Technology. He uses Heidegger, The Question Concerning Technology, 1889 to 1976. He said it was an influential German philosopher. His work covered metaphysics, existentialism, and phenomenology, but his key focus was ontology, or the nature of being. His most famous book was his first, Being and Time, in 1927. But yeah, one of the things that Dr. Scribina said when he assigned it, he said that that you're gonna need a bottle of whiskey to read this, because this shit is really just unreadable. The German philosophy and Heidegger and Hegel, they're like fucking unreadable. You really just, they go in circles with the same concepts. But the basic nug of the work is that technology transforms nature into a process in the efficient cause, removes all causal relation by inframing, through the process of inframing. He says nature, that technology treats nature as a standing reserve, so it's dangerous to nature. It's hostile to nature itself. And then he says that 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 revealing he talks about this process of revealing versus enframing. So it's fucking weird. Yeah, but yeah, his shit is weird. It's one of the weirdest works of all time. Question concerning technology. It's difficult to read. Definitely, you know, you want to start out with Plato or some ground level shit before you get into that.
I think I'll just let this one play then for a few minutes, so I can take a break and you can do as well. So we'll let the guy talk on the question concerning technology here, Martin Heidegger. Here we go. We'll be back shortly. Thanks everybody that's still watching. Probably gonna have to wrap up pretty soon, but we'll get through a couple more. But short break. We'll let Heidegger talk on technology for a minute, and we will be right back.
Sagen, dass ich nicht gegen die Technik bin. Ich habe nie gegen die Technik gesprochen, auch nicht über das sogenannte Dämonische der Technik, sondern ich versuche das Wesen der Technik zu verstehen. Und wenn Sie diesen Gedanken zitieren mit der Gefährlichkeit der Atombombe und noch einer noch größeren Gefährlichkeit der Technik, so denke ich an das, was sich heute als Biophysik entwickelt, dass wir in absehbarer Zeit imstande sind, den Menschen so zu machen, das heißt rein in seinem organischen Wesen, so zu konstruieren, wie man ihn braucht.
Martin Heidegger is one of the most well-renowned philosophers of all time. As he is primarily known for his work being in time, there is a whole host of other work that does not get the attention it truly deserves. One of those underrated works is The Question Concerning Technology. This video over The Question Concerning Technology is a part 2 follow-up to Being in Time. While I want to make this video as accessible as possible to all people who haven't really learned the theory surrounding being in time, it is helpful understanding being in time and the backdrop he uses in approaching the question concerning technology. So if part 1 and Heidegger's work Being in Time interest you, feel free to take some time to watch that video first, as I made Being in Time as easy as I possibly could. Yet, if this does not interest you, I will make this as accessible as humanly possible for you. As Being in Time is one of the single most important pieces of philosophy in the 20th century, I still find Heidegger's essay on The Question Concerning Technology to be one of the best works in philosophy and one of the very best critiques of modernity that we have. As Heidegger is really known for his phenomenology and his existentialism, I find that this essay really lends itself towards critical theory. And as we see that this work is not a separation of phenomenology or existentialism, it fundamentally changes the makeup of how we view the modern condition and how we view being with technology. Our prior conceptions with technology was one of exterior systems. We ultimately saw technology as a mere separate entity from us. As Heidegger rejects the separation of object and subject, the separation of you and the world, Heidegger also rejects the separation of technology and us. To Heidegger, humans are questioning beings. Within being and the fundamental care and interaction as human beings, questioning and curiosity is woven within that framework. This is why the fundamental meaning of technology is so important. In a weird way, we are technology and technology is us. So what is technology and what does technology mean? To Heidegger, to understand technology, we ultimately need to understand the essence of technology. When concerning technology, we don't typically think about the essence. We think about how that technology affects us, the utility of the specific technology at hand, and the like. And while these questions are not bad questions, and they are necessary to some extent, Heidegger ultimately wants us to look directly at the essence of technology. You may be watching this on a computer monitor. You may be watching this on a smartphone. And when asked about the essence of technology, you may use a smartphone, you may use a monitor as an example of the essence of technology. But an example of an actual physical form of technology isn't actually the essence of technology. To Heidegger, we as humans are actually kind of blind to technology. Heidegger quotes this as follows: "We will never experience our relationship to the essence of technology so long as we merely represent and pursue the technological." Heidegger is trying to convey that so long as we remain in a certain attitude towards technology, towards its ultimate utility, its purpose, we will never be able to truly understand technology, its essence, and even its relation to us. There's something else Heidegger wants to dispel. We have this common notion in society that technology is something neutral, that it holds absolutely no moral baggage to it. Heidegger rejects this outright and claims that technology has all kinds of baggage to it. Technology changes the entire trajectory of society as a whole. And with that, in no possible realm could technology simply be a means. No realm could technology simply be a neutral tool. It's important to understand that Heidegger is approaching this question of technology as a metaphysical endeavor. He wants to understand the fundamental essence of technology while also not rejecting the prior notions of technology actually being an external means and human activity. In Heidegger's eyes, the metaphysical essence of technology does not have to contradict the truth surrounding the means of technology and the human activity around it. Ultimately, he is trying to convey that it is true that technology is a means, and ultimately technology is a form of human activity. Yet he also wants to convey that that actually doesn't get at the essence of technology, and that both of these viewpoints don't necessarily have to be wrong and contradict one another. So moving forward, there are three essential claims that Heidegger is making in the question concerning technology. One being that technology is not a mere instrument. It's not a mere neutral tool. It is ultimately a way of understanding the world. The second is technology is not necessarily a human activity alone, but technology ultimately develops beyond human control and almost beyond human comprehension. And then the third is technology is the actual highest danger. It is something that we must use extreme caution towards, not necessarily in a physical sense, but in a metaphysical and conceptual sense, that we risk seeing the world only through a technological lens. So technology as a means of understanding the world. Let's dive into that. To identify the essence of technology, it is to ultimately lay bare technology as a clearing. In Heideggerian terminology, a clearing is something that reveals itself to us. Like when you're in the middle of the woods and there is a clearing to an open field, conceptually, a clearing is a way of exposing an idea. A good visual of this is the human metaphor of a light bulb going off when you understand something. Technology operates in this way. Technology sways our being, our Dasein, as a way of understanding the world, as a way of exposing more. Heidegger quotes this as follows: technology is therefore no mere means. Technology is a way of revealing. If we give heed to this, then another whole realm for the essence of technology will open itself up to us. It is the realm of revealing, i.e., of truth. It can reveal things about us. It can reveal things of technology that we didn't once know. Heidegger ultimately places a lot of emphasis on revealing meaning for us as well through the lens of technology. So, as a technological revelation, Heidegger also focuses on how we interact with the world, our being, in a modern technological context. In this modern technological context, the world is partitioned away into what Heidegger calls a standing reserve. What Heidegger means by standing reserve is that the world is essentially one large resource waiting to be used, waiting to be processed. In the present, the resource-focused world is already so ingrained into our being that even hearing something like the world is one large resource waiting to be exploited, waiting to be used, does not even seem problematic in the slightest to many. Yet let's take a step back and understand the potential benevolence of this very outlook. Going back to being in time, understanding the unity between you, the world, the plants, the animals. In this standing reserve context, in this modern outlook, we see that we run the risk of partitioning ourselves away. In pre-modernity, there was a fundamental relationship that Heidegger recognized between nature and people, that the trees were my home, that ultimately the trees were used to create a home. That if I needed to light a fire, that the trees were available to me in that relationship. In a standing reserve, not so much. The trees, the resources themselves become an abstraction. There is no relationship to you whenever the only concern is how much money am I going to make from these trees? How much money and utility is going to come from this plot of land? Heidegger notices that when there is no relational context to how you interact with the world, it festers elsewhere. If the trees, If the soil, if the water are all resources to be used, how about people? Given the unity between all, what will stop us from looking at humans in the exact same context? As an abstraction, used to make money, used to garner utility. This is an ultimate danger in what technology poses to us. And
I guess that's kind of interesting because that ties into Rousseau as well. Because he didn't he believe that there were people that were born to be slaves, that there was inherently people that were meant to be slaves.
Well, in discourses on inequality, he basically comes to the same conclusion that arts and sciences have basically through materialism turned human beings into sort of part of a material, or to be used, or kind of, this is kind of why he said that man is born free, but it's everywhere in chains. He meant that civilization itself are these chains that he said that basically, he was the founder of the idea that that so many people say actually comes from Brave New World and shit. Actually, it was made up by Rousseau. That actually, he said that the states put garlands of flowers on your chains. They make you love your slavery. That most people are happy slaves. That you're actually chained by your own desires. That was one of Rousseau's ideas. And he saw technology and science as being the main culprit in this. And he saw like hut society, a return to nature and the pastoral life as the cure to it. So really, Rousseau's ideas, Heidegger's ideas, they're kind of anti-enlightenment thinking. They kind of, used enlightenment thinking to collapse rational thought in a way. And in that, they used it to attack scientific hubris. Especially.
Yeah, it's interesting how many anti-enlightenment figures are prominent in this text. But
well, that's the kind of the thing that they're doing. It's kind of this two pushes. It's acceleration, but it's also Discordian.
Yes.
And there's a as much as there's a push towards this transhumanist future, there's also a push towards this archaic revival.
Yes.
To this neo-pagan element, the time before Christianity and, all that stuff, to this like neo-Babylon, neo-pagan element. It's crazy shit. Yeah, for real.
Like some kind of techno shamanism or some kind of shit.
That's exactly right. Yeah, techno shamanism, Technogaianism.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, there's still a lot more to cover. There is a whole section of cars that I wanted to go in that if Jack Talcott was here, there was a few great cars that we could have had Jack Talcott on. Because there's a lot of these cards are right up Talcott's alley. The
brother
pro work.
I'm blessed, man.
Pro work, pro worker, anti-work, and all that kind of stuff, and the abolition of wars. Where's this one? Let me pull up this one card while we're at it here. I can only do a couple more, and I gotta get off of here. But there was one here that's like all of Jack's talking points here. Yeah, that Bob Black was one that I wanted to go into. No more war. Work turned into play. No more money. Getting rid of right off the bat, we can liberate tens of millions of salesmen, soldiers, managers, cops, stockbrokers, clergymen, bankers, lawyers, teachers, landlords, security guards. Most work serves the unproductive purpose of the commerce or social control. So the abolition of work. And this ties into like, Jack's big into the Venus Project and the Zeitgeist Project and all this kind of resource-based economies kind of stuff. And I think that was kind of somewhat where parts of that Heidegger was going towards as well. What I was filling out of that too. We don't really have time to go into that one, but I thought we would. Let's just end with another Frankfurt School psychologist. Where were we at? Who did I just have pulled up? Yeah, Kurt Lewin, another early member of the Frankfurt School, MIT, Macy Conference attendee, the change process. I don't know a whole lot about this individual. Machine Lies, are you familiar with him at all?
I think not as much as I'd like to be.
Yeah, I did have something
yeah.
that he had was called I had a video on it. Was called let me find it out. Kurt Lewin's first force-field theory of change, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Theories within the organizational change is Kurt Lewin's force field theory of change, and it is a really nice concept, so let's check it out. This is a theory that argues that two sets of opposing forces within an organization determine how the change will take place. So let's draw it on a simple graph. On our horizontal axis, we have time, and on our vertical axis, we have level of performance. So the higher we are on this axis, the better or the higher is the level of performance. Or you can also say efficiency. We can measure also efficiency with this axis. So let's say we have a company and we are on some given level of performance. Let's say we are over here. This is just some time period. This can be, for instance, 1 year. So over 1 year, the level of performance in our company has not changed, and we would like to, of course, improve it. We have already learned about the organizational change, and we know that its aim is to increase the level of performance into some desired future state. So we look into the future, and we are over here, and we would like to increase the level of performance. So we would like to get somewhere over here, and then again, this can be some time period. This can be again 1 year. So we told ourselves that within 1 year, we want to get increased level of performance. So we want to do this step. And now the theory argues that there are these two sets of opposing forces. And we have already learned a bit about these forces. We know that there are some forces for change. So forces for change. And on the other hand, there are some resistances to change. Resistances to change. And we know now that these two sets are the opposing forces. So the forces for change are there. They are motivating us to improve, to get to the better results, to increase our level of efficiency, to increase our level of performance. So these are there all the time, and they are pushing us up and motivating us. And on the other hand, there are these resistances to change. There is this organizational inertia that we have learned about, and they are pushing us down. They don't want us to change. And they are, again, at every point. So let me finish my drawing.
So basically, it's more balls and shafts and more feedback, I think, is what that all boils down to.
But it's interesting. It's again this from what I know about it, and also just glancing over these types of ideas, it all comes down to the same thing. It's about nonlinear dynamics, semantics, and these probabilistic math systems, where change happens within. And it's the same thing with Prigozhin and all of these types of things. It's about decentralization in a system that causes change to happen within, an existing system. So really, it's this Hegelian thing where it's pushed in from its own potential, and that's how he collapses this Aristotelian framework. Because Aristotle's based on teleology, and he said that everything's pulled forward by its own inner potential towards what it could its perfectibility is based on how it's driven forward through change through its inner potential. And this was what he thought was like the explanation of temperance and change. But Hegel kind of inverted that and said, well, things are sort of changed from within. They're transformed. Systems collapse and give birth to new systems, and then they collapse and give birth to new
Yeah,
systems.
it's that constant state of becoming.
Yeah. Yeah, where it's just like, total use of, Heraclitus to collapse, this Aristotelian, metaphysics of this teleology. And that's kind of where they're going with this. It's always changed from within that's pulling the thing forward and then causing systems to break down. But the breakdown is also causing them to reformulate, because change that happens within never actually breaks down. It just, reformulates and reprograms itself to, So that's, yeah.
Yeah, and well, unfortunately, I need to wrap up tonight. Perhaps we will do a HEXEN 2.0 Tarot 3.0 in the future. Perhaps we can get Jack Talcott on here when we go into kind of this anti-work kind of stuff. These utopian anarchist societies. The abolition of money, resource-based economies. There's still a whole lot more content left in this deck that we can cover. I thought show started off a little harsh. We had all those tech errors in the beginning, kind of put us in a bad mode from the get-go. But I think we came into the stride later on in the stream. So thanks for everybody that watched. Thanks to the Machine Lies for joining us tonight on this. It was a fantastic stream. Thank you for your wealth of knowledge, sir. You truly are a gentleman and a scholar. And we appreciate you being here. Chalk Body Outline. I'm not sure if is the mic on? Is he snoring? Is he there? It's flashing in and out. Well, thanks everybody. This was HEXEN 2.0, Tarot 2.0. Add it to the catalog. And we're going to end again with this little tribute, this dope little beat. And we'll see you on the next one, as Mr. Crocker used to always say.
Joe, this is Ryan, on an airplane that's been hijacked, and things will go well. I'm looking forward to it. I know it's absolutely from you. I want you to do good. So happy to thanks to my parents and everybody. And I totally love you and have a really good day.
I'm on a plane that's been hijacked. I'm honestly just calling from the plane. I want to tell you I love you. Please tell my children that I love them very much. And I'm so sorry, babe. I hope to be able to see your face again, baby. I love you. Bye.
surprised. We're not here to die.